He has to be there every evening at 6 p.m. and he can't leave till 7 a.m. in the morning. They told him he's going to be killed. He said he don't care. He made this choice. And Escobar was known for trying to probably like hiding in plain sight. I don't know if y'all probably seen that picture where it's Pablo Escobar and Juan Pablo, his son, at the White House. Also, Juan Pablo told me, no, that's not even as bad as it gets. He said, we went on a tour of the DEA office in Washington. He said, my dad took me on a tour through we're talking to him, taking pictures with people that have no idea that the man that's throwing the wanted pictures on the wall is standing there walking through the offices with me. They rented the little hotel right next to the Salvation Army, and they had a room where you could, Bernardo sat there with binoculars and two-way radio, and would tell you every day they'd see him. He parked in the same spot right in front of the Salvation Army every day. He'd back his car in. They'd see him every day go and come. They watched him for a few days, and Dad backs in next to him. He's on that cell phone I was talking about on his show, and he's on the phone when he's backing in. He just picks the machine gun up, steps from around the trunk, and lit him up.
Welcome back to 10 Toes Podcast. Around here, we stand on truth. And yeah, I do interrupt. Let's get into it. Well, I appreciate you coming, Aaron.
Everything we're going to speak about in this is alleged, and I don't. It's what do you call that stuff? It's satire. Anything involving the CIA, and I don't want to be prosecuted. All my taxes are in order, and I don't want any trouble with the IRS either.
Well, that's not what I wanted to hear. I was telling my audience that I had the real guy on here would get the story straight.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Okay. So
I'm just teasing, but I don't want any trouble with the government if I don't have to.
So the movie American Made is made about your dad, right?
Correct.
How accurate is that movie?
The historical parts of the movie are accurate. My he was a cocaine smuggler. He did work with the White House. He did work with the CIA. He worked with the Medellín Cartel. He did a lot of the cover work. He was killed. But not every scene in there is completely accurate. My dad's story would take a whole series. You'd have to do a series to fit it all in. But and the movie was told once before. The story was told once before in the early '90s. So they just did a fresh take on it. But so the historical parts are accurate, but not every scene happened exactly like that. Though a lot of the scenes did happen exactly as they showed.
So how old were you when he was
killed? I was 9 years old when he was killed.
So you do remember your dad?
Oh, absolutely.
So what's some good memories of him? Like what would y'all do when he wasn't smuggling? Like what type of dad was he?
Well, people find this humorous. My dad coached our soccer team at St. George Catholic Church in Baton Rouge. While he was the largest drug smuggler in the world.
I thought y'all lived in Arkansas.
No, we never lived in Arkansas.
Really?
That's just where my dad had an airport that he used. The movie they did like that in the movie, I guess, because they first wrote the script for American Made. It was the title of it was Mina, because the guy researching all the going ons in Mina came up, got the information for it. But it was easier, I guess, for them to do it like that. We never actually lived there. Though I'd been in the Mina, Arkansas airport many times. I got my first stray dog from the hangar there. I named her Tailspin. One day I was up there with Dad doing some stuff and playing with some stray dogs and feeding them candy out the machine, and took one of them home with me.
So it is true about how the government, the CIA, there's the ones that funded that whole thing, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's now settled facts.
Okay, so that's settled facts. So he was your coach, and you didn't live in Arkansas. And at this time, did you know he was up to no good?
No, I didn't know until after he was killed. I just thought that, I started realizing we had like extras, and it seemed like we had a little bit of money and influence, but I just thought because Dad was a pilot. I didn't realize just because, I thought everybody whose dad was a pilot had helicopters and airplanes and stuff around. I didn't think it was all that weird because it was always around. I mean, my uncle, my dad's the middle brother after my dad, he owned a helicopter company, so he had helicopters around. Dad had helicopters. Dad was a pilot. He had airplanes. I just didn't know it was all that odd.
So you, even during when he was going to trial and fighting his case, you didn't know, like when the feds came, took everything?
That we weren't told it was from drugs. I don't remember what they told us the IRS was there. They probably just say Dad owed some bills or something. I'm not sure what they told us, but he had everything replaced the next day, so we didn't really miss a beat with it. I didn't know it was drug related.
Now, the part of the movie where he tells your mom to put the fur coat on and all the jewelry.
Yeah,
is that true?
That's accurate. Yeah, I don't think she had the fur coat on, but all her jewelry for sure. Yeah.
The reason why I asked that question is you never hear nobody talk about that story, and the reason why I say that is I didn't believe it. I watched your dad's movie about him when I was in federal prison, but I've heard stories about this and other things. And people don't understand when the feds show up, they give them, I've heard incidents, I read it in people's paperwork, where they give them a garbage bag. And they say, whatever fits in this garbage bag. And they even give the kids one.
The way it happened was my dad was actually at his office. He had a little shop in North Baton Rouge where it was like his little office where he did things out of. And so they went there first, and when he was at his office. And when they went there, he wouldn't let him in because they didn't have a warrant. He said, I'm not letting you in here. You better come back with a warrant. So, and he's got some files in there he didn't want anybody to see. So I'm not sure who was at the office with him, which employees at the time. But so they're sitting outside the door where he can't really leave with anything. So they have put all the windows up. My dad's filling barrels with paperwork, and they're lighting them on fire and burning them and fanning the flames, the smoke out the window, waiting on everybody to get a warrant. So they eventually get a warrant. Well, during that time, he calls his lawyer and asks, what can they do? And he tells him. So he said, they're going to your house next, Barry. So he called my mom and said, look, Debbie, the IRS is here. I'm making them get a warrant. They're going to be coming there next. The lawyer said they can take, they can't stop them from taking anything. He said, but they can't take anything off your physical body. Anything on your person, they can't touch. So if whatever you want to keep all your jewelry, you better go put it on. So Mom went and put all the jewelry on. Well, some of the agents did try to stop her and were trying to take stuff from her. And there was a benevolent, nice female agent that Mom said, look, y'all taking everything. This is some jewelry my husband gave me. I'll never be able to get anything from my husband like this again. Please don't take this. And the female agent had some authority there, and she said, okay, keep it, honey. She said, I'm going to turn the other way. And she told everybody to let her keep her stuff.
So that is true.
That is true.
So you say your dad had some paperwork that people probably didn't want.
I don't know what in his office. He didn't want something in his office he didn't want him seeing, so he lit it on fire in the inside and fanning the flames out.
Well, we had some conversations, and the reason why I want to bring this up at the beginning of the podcast, because I want it to come out towards the end. You had said that your dad had dirt on some pretty big people.
That's what he alleged, yeah.
And none of them recordings or tapes or anything have ever been found.
I've never seen them. I don't know anybody that has, but my dad would make the threat that when people would ask him, like, Barry, you're not worried about all this, how are you going to get all this solved? He would say, that he had videotape of some very high up politicians, family members, DEA busting, doing a drug bust, cocaine bust, and them not knowing who it was that they were coming, busting, and it turned out to be some politicians' children, and then that he had somebody tucked away filming it, and that him threatening to release that tape should be able to you'd be the leverage he needed to get people to help him out with his issues. I never saw the tape. I don't know anybody that ever did, but I've heard that the tape existed, and I believe it. I guess it could. My dad usually would make a threat like that. He's not the type that would have made that up.
Yeah, but wouldn't you think he would release it the way they were doing him towards the end?
I think that's probably why they had him killed because he was going to. Or,
but I imagine your father's pretty smart that he gave that to somebody, or they know where it's at.
It's very possible, and maybe after him being killed, if somebody did have it, they saw the writing on the wall and wouldn't want to. Would you release it if you had it?
Family member, yes. Yeah. If it was my brother, family member, or my dad or somebody, yeah, I'm a different breed than most.
No, I hear you. I'm saying most people wouldn't want to. They would say, okay, this guy, if this guy got killed over that, I might not want to touch it. But not everybody's cut from that cloth,
Yeah. So
if I had it, I'd play it right here on the screen. If I had it, but if it exists, I wish I did. But
if I figured if it exists, somebody would know where it's at. Or you would have heard that a certain family member seen it and destroyed it.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, okay, let's get back into it.
It wasn't in the collection of home videos that I do have.
Where did your dad start? So it's true that he worked for the CIA.
He did work with the CIA, yes.
What was the first story you've heard?
I mean, the first actual proof that that can be the stuff can be proven is when he had the CIA installed the cameras on his plane. The plane he called the Fat Lady, the C-123 tank cargo plane that he filmed Escobar himself, personally loading cocaine on. That was the CIA. That's acknowledged. The CIA did that. But I mean, I believe my dad's CIA ties won't go back a lot further. I mean, he was involved. The CIA did the Bay of Pigs invasion, and my dad was involved in the Bay of Pigs invasion. So he was working with the CIA then. I mean, those you don't just those kind of connections you don't just stumble upon. You kind of have contract. He wasn't a CIA employee. My dad wasn't a CIA officer, but he was a CIA agent, meaning he did contract work with them. I think it's just it's pretty logical to come to that assumption.
From what I understand, going to federal prison, being around some ex FBI, DEA agents, and involvement with the CIA, especially military guys. I don't know if this is correct or not. You might be able to elaborate. You're hearing about it. Very few people are actual CIA agents. Majority of them are paid by the CIA to be their handler or
the official thing when people say, and I thought this years ago. If somebody said a CIA agent, I thought that meant you work for the CIA. That's not the case. It's a CIA official or like a government employee or whoever. If you receive a paycheck from the CIA and that's your employer, you're considered a CIA official.
Yep.
A CIA agent is just somebody that the CIA that does work for them, but you're not like a contract employee. You're not an official employee of the CIA, but like the work is being subbed out to you.
That's why they have the black budget.
Yeah. Then you have CIA assets, which are just people that we may, somebody in another country you may pay to give you information on something or do things for you. So there's the CIA official. My dad was not, but he was definitely an agent of the CIA. I mean, he did work for them at the very least. Again, in the airplane with the pictures, but he was involved with CIA. He was around and working in arenas that the CIA were running missions going back all the way to after Vietnam with Air America and Laos. So. The same name, the same cast of characters pop up in all these different historical events, and my dad was always around them as well. So I believe he was there, with agency ties.
So he was in the military.
Yeah, my dad was in Vietnam. He was with the Louisiana National Guard at the time, but they bumped him up to work with the Green Berets. He was a pilot for the Green Berets.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. So he got to see some cool stuff.
The first things he did that I'm aware of to make an extra money was when the war was ending. They're flying all the guns back home from Vietnam. They're loading up. They're just filling airplanes with rifles. They're not counting these things. They're just throwing everything in the planes. So Dad was flying them back. So he would stop off in Mexico, sell half the plane load of guns because they weren't counted, and then fly back with the other half. That's the first thing I heard of him making extra money like that. And eventually later on in life, I met a guy who was doing it with him, who became a pastor in Baton Rouge. In Livingston, right next to where I live, and he and I became really close. I just passed away recently. God rest his soul. But I called him Uncle Mike, and Uncle Mike said, "Yeah, your dad. Uncle Mike's dad was a drill sergeant, I believe, or was high up in the military, and him and my dad met, and they were flying guns back together." And a lot of people would tell me these stories, like growing up. Oh, here, and I knew your dad. I worked with your dad, and most of it was complete BS. But when Uncle Mike started telling me this story, I knew right away he knew my dad. He said, "Yeah." He said, I flew with your daddy on a helicopter I was flying enough to ride with your dad in a helicopter. He was a very just technical, functional, good, non-scary helicopter pilot. He said, I flew with your dad in an airplane once. He said, I played it cool. He said, he turned that thing so sideways, upside down. He said, I acted like it didn't bother me. He said, as soon as the plane we landed and my feet hit the ground on the tarmac, he said, I cussed that son of a bitch up and down. I said, you crazy. He said, I told him I will never get in an airplane with you ever again. I said, okay, he definitely flew with my dad then.
Sounds like riding in the BOP plane, Con Air.
Yeah.
Oh, they're hell on you. So out of all the stories you heard, how did your dad get involved with the CIA and what year you think that was?
I mean, whatever year the Vietnam War was ending, Air America, when they were the heroin smuggling coming out of there, I would guess that's when it started. Whatever, I don't know the exact year. What's that? Late '60s, early '70s.
Your mom never told you stories like Dad coming and saying, "Man, you ain't gonna believe who approached me."
They weren't married then, so he would tell her stories like he would tell her he was in the Bay of Pigs, involved in the Bay of Pigs invasion when they first met. She chalked it up to his stories were always so fantastical. She's like, "Oh, this guy's just trying to impress me," and she was a lot younger than him. She thought like, "Okay, sure you were," And as as they got to know each other, she realized, okay, this stuff's probably true. But his stories were so wild, she was just like, this is just some guy trying to impress me.
That's funny. That is kind of funny because I get the same thing. I tell some of my stories. People are like, what?
Exactly.
So
I learned from that. If you don't have pictures or video of it, people are probably not going to believe you.
Yeah, no, that is true. That's 100% true.
Especially these days,
So in the movie where they're talking about he's moving the guns to, was it Nicaragua?
Yeah, that's what I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, Nicaragua.
Yeah.
They're moving the guns there, but they're not paying him, and he's not making enough money to survive because he was doing airlines, right? That's all true.
Yeah,
all that story's true.
Well, I don't know about the actual if that's how it was going in Nicaragua. I mean, I think they were just trying to summarize a little bit. I mean, what he was doing. He was flying guns down there for the government, for the CIA, for whoever it was. He was flying the guns down there to help build the army up for the war against the communists. and cocaine was being flown back. And so as long as he was flying the guns down there and getting that part done, the CIA and the government either didn't care that the cocaine was coming back, and they just allowed them to do that because what happened was the Congress passed the Bolin Amendment. That meant we could no longer fund. Congress would not allocate money to fight communism in South America. They weren't going to do that after the big catastrophe in Vietnam. It was illegal to use money for that for the Contra War. So the CIA wasn't going to stop that. They were going to let Congress get in the way. They had to come up with a way to fund this war. So what way to make money in the black market that's untraceable, that's already an established market, than drugs? And you're going to need pilots to train the soldiers down there, train the pilots to bring in the weapons, but you can't use our military because that's illegal now. So you have to find pilots that are technical enough and flying ability and have the balls to go down there and do this, and also to do it and know how to do it and be willing to do it with your license on the line doing this. And so the logical thing would be pick out drug smugglers that are already doing this and tell them, look, we'll help you out with it. You just when you go down there, bring a load of guns, and you can bring your cocaine back, and we'll turn our face and look the other way. I believe that eventually they saw that when they saw the money, it was just too logical not to do it.
Yeah, but here's the thing about it. So, what role did the CIA have in the drug smuggling part besides allowing him to do it? Didn't they have their hands in the pot?
Well, once they saw the amount of money that was being made, that right there's enough money for them to fund the war. I don't know if they had different deals with each pilot. I don't know how what their cut was, but
So the part, because I've watched the movie quite a few times. So the part where it sounded to me that he was moving the guns, and they were like, "You better figure out another way to survive." So then that's how he got the connect to get the drugs. But from the sources I did time in prison with that were involved in it all, that knew your dad, they showed me paperwork, Pablo Escobar, and everything. I mean, this is their third federal prison bid. I mean, I think his first bid was in 72. I mean, he said he walked into a USP with a suitcase in 72. Like you were able to bring a suitcase of your own clothes. So he had told me, he was like, no, the CIA was involved in it all. They were involved in it. And they were moving, and the CIA would pay them so much money to bring the drugs back.
Yeah.
So apparently that means that they had to connect with Pablo Escobar, and the CIA was controlling Pablo Escobar. CIA was running it all. All your dad was doing what I was told through these guys, just like this other guy. He was the same type. He said, I would get paid so much per key, and that's it. I didn't have nothing to do with money. I didn't have to do anything. I would bring the money back. I would handle it. I just did everything. I worked for them. They had it all worked out. Is that the same thing you heard about your dad?
Basically, yeah.
Really? So him meeting the guy on the plane, giving him the connect, you were just telling that story right before we started. Now, how does that line up if the CIA was behind it all?
Well, see, that's a lot of my dad's secrets obviously died with him. We don't know exactly how they went down. The way my thoughts on it have evolved all over the years. When Dad first met Roger Reeves and started working for him, I don't know. I think Dad always had his CIA connections, and at first I thought that was just Dad enterprising, networking. He met somebody, and then eventually the CIA got, he maybe, told his CIA people, look, I met a guy, I got a good coke hookup, I'll fly the guns too, or whatever. I think now that Dad was probably told to go source a connection. Hey, if you can get connected with the highest connection you can get for the cocaine, we'll help you out with it, and you can keep all the money from the coke and just bring our guns down there. That I think as I told you the story, when he meets Roger on the plane, he introduces him, hi, I'm Barry Seal. What are you doing down here? I just got out of prison for cocaine smuggling. Have you ever introduced yourself like that to a stranger?
Never.
So it sounds like he was not scared. He wasn't too scared to put it out there. So why? Unless he knew he was doing this with the government backing to be so bold to do that.
Times were different back then, though. You're talking about what, 80s or 70s?
Yeah, it's 79, 80 probably.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean, like things were different. Back then.
I think he was going down there with the intention, knowing that the CIA he was going to be working with them, because it wasn't long after that he was in MENA training, doing they were funding the flying the guns out of MENA. Not very long after that. And Roger told me that my dad when your dad started working for me, he was flying in the MENA the entire time. That's what Roger tells me.
So it's true. I mean, that they gave him the maps, because I don't understand the map thing. That's kind of confusing to me. About how they talk about like the maps would tell them we're showing like
the maps. I've never heard that. I think that was just for the movie.
Okay, I was gonna say because that made it, because when I was smuggling, My sources in the U.S. Customs or Coast Guard would tell me like, "Hey, Jason, we're patrolling in this area because it's hot right now, or we're told there. So listen, we're gonna be in this area. Wink, wink." And that's how it would go about doing it.
I think the maps were just a bait for the film part,
And another
creative
thing
license.
that I don't know if you know anything about it, if you can elaborate on it. So where I'm from, Vero Beach, Florida, is straight across from Tampa on the east coast of Florida. Okay, so it's right north of Okeechobee Lake, and they've always said, and rumor had it was that twin engine planes from Columbia to there was like where they ran out of fuel, so they couldn't go no further north without stopping and refueling to keep going. Okay. So it was like a really good spot because Central Florida was very undeveloped. It was a haven for like dropping planes and loads in Florida. It was like huge. It was like the main spot. But one thing I've never understood is, how did your dad make it from down there to Louisiana, which is so much further?
Well, they would fly from Colombia to Nicaragua and stop and refuel there for sure.
Okay.
That's where when Dad was first smuggling, when Roger decided to hire Dad to work for him, Roger was flying to Colombia and picking it up. Then he would fly to Nicaragua and he would stop there. Dad would then fly to Nicaragua and meet Roger in Nicaragua, refuel.
Oh, so your dad never went to Colombia?
No, at first when he got involved with the cartel, he was working for Roger for about 2 years. He was just flying to meet Roger in Nicaragua, and then my dad was handling the American leg of the trip. Roger eventually got arrested because he had a marijuana smuggling warrant out for him that he got caught up for. So he goes to jail. Dad helped, gave Miss Maury, his wife, some money, bought their airplanes and stuff, and so she'd have cash. Helped him get a lawyer. It was supposed to be doing 30 years, but he only ended up getting 3 years from everything they arranged. But while he was in jail, Dad then started working directly with the cartel. So Roger was paying him $1 million a flight. Once he went directly with the cartel, he was getting $2.5 million a flight. And so then for the next 2 years, he was flying directly for the cartel.
How many planes was he running at a time, and how many kilos were in these shipments?
I don't know how many planes he had going at a time, but when they did do, Roger said the cartel was weird. They had certain numbers they would do. It was either 300 or 500. They had like some, they had some. They thought it was like bad luck if you had too many variations of numbers. Like a small load was 300 or 500 kilos.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't understand, flying off the deck burns a lot of fuel. Yeah. The lower and then the weight.
And Dad also had mechanics in MENA that would add like they call it bladders to the gas tank, which it's illegal to do, but he had them fitted where the planes could go a little further. But yeah, they stopped in Nicaragua. That's why when he took the CIA pictures of Escobar loading the plane, it was in Nicaragua.
Yeah, but that was a C-130 that they can fly a long distance.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's Nicaragua. I'm saying that was a state, the cartel, that was like their safe area when stuff got tight. They were always using that, and Roger said they were using it as a refueling point. He said they'd wash your plane for you, they refill you, go get some food, spend the night, stay as long as you needed to. You could leave right away. You could spend the night in a nice room. He said the soldiers came out, the Nicaraguan soldiers loaded the plane for you. They'd wash your plane down, gas you up, take off when you're ready.
So all the smugglers that I grew up around and the ones I did prison time with, they said that they would take waterbed bladders and put in the plane, and they would fly down on the waterbed bladder and then fly back on the wing fuel. And the reason why is because you're dropping down in jungles and you can't trust the fuel. Yeah. They said they would bring fuel in case you need it, but you didn't know what kind of fuel you were getting. It was dangerous.
That's why they're landing a military base in Nicaragua, because the cartel had that worked out by then.
Had it worked out and get the good fuel. Did your dad ever tell you stories, or did you ever hear stories from your mom or whoever about him, like some wild stories of like landing in the jungles? And
I heard one directly out of Dad's mouth. That's actually they show the scene in the first movie, Double Cross, made about him. So my dad and my mom they would talk when we were kids. They would, I guess I don't have kids, but parents I guess still do this. You're saying words in the store you don't want the kids to know. They'd spell the words out. Well, I had gotten really good at spelling, and I guess they didn't realize that. And I was able to listen to the stories and hear the words they were spelling out. So we're riding the car one day, and Dad had just been in Colombia or wherever he was at. He was in Colombia. For whatever reason, I guess is when the cartel was kind of on the run. It was Carlos later. They were loading up the plane, and they put too much on. He told them the plane was not. It was too much on the plane. It wasn't going to take off. And they demanded he do it. So he tried to take the plane off, and him and his co-pilot, and the plane flipped, trying to lift up, and flipped on its back. Well, they're getting out because the plane's going to blow up. Well, the Colombians start sending all the unloaders to go get all the coke off the plane. He's like, no, get away. The plane's going to blow. The plane's going to blow. And they're like, no, get the coke off. So the little peasants are running out there unloading the coke. So he goes and him and his co-pilot start helping them to try to get it for the plane. They finally get all the bales out, and then the plane blows up. I actually still have the picture somewhere of Dad standing on the top of the plane on the belly up before it caught fire. And so I think that might be the trip when they went. That's why I had to get the C-123. Anyway, my dad's telling the story to my mom in the car, and I'm picking up the words he's spelling out. And so then I didn't mean to let him know I was listening, but I didn't understand, well, what was so important in this plane that people were risking their life to get stuff out? So I asked, I said, Dad, what was in the airplane these people were about to get blown up trying to get me? He paused a second, he said, oh, some expensive radio equipment. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I just thought some of Dad's expensive, gizmos in the airplane. Of course, they need to get that out.
So that scene in American Made's true, where they're all sitting there making bets like.
Well, that's a different scene that plane took off.
Yeah.
They probably did that as a take off the old scene where the plane flipped.
Really? So the plane really flipped?
Yeah. So now I have a picture of Dad standing, got a white T-shirt. He's standing on the plane waving on top of it. It's flat on its back.
What? So it's funny you say that because one of the drug smugglers that I used to walk the track with, this old dude, and the one that started doing time at 72, he had told me a story. They overloaded the plane down one time, and he couldn't take off the runway, and there was a cliff that it helped you take off, like taking off of a aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
And he said he knew that it was just the way how it was bouncing down the thing. Even if he did, he said it was just going to go straight down. So he ran it into the trees, and it crushed a cab up on him, broke his feet, and broke all kinds of stuff. He said it took 2 days on a donkey to get out. He said he was in so much pain he kept passing out, and they had to tie him on the donkey because he kept passing out because the pain was so bad on the donkey ride out of the jungle.
I have another plane story. My dad was flying through Nicaragua, because that's a communist nation, and nobody the airspace is controlled. But they had clearance. The smugglers had clearance from the government to do it, but somebody didn't get the message. One of the times his dad was flying up, I believe it with all the lights and stuff off, how they would do it. But somebody on the ground didn't realize that they had clearance, and they started shooting with the big gun, kind of anti-aircraft guns, or whatever, and they shot the engine out of his plane. He had to crash land in Nicaragua with that plane, and they first drug him into jail, and then the cartel let him know, that's our guy. Oh, they're so sorry, they let him out right away, and he even Jorge Ochoa loaned him a plane to fly back to America so he could buy a new one to come back, and I think that's when he brought back the C-123.
So who all in your family was involved with your dad's operations?
Mainly his younger brother, my Uncle Wendell, who's passed away. He worked with Dad, and then my dad's first marriage, his brother-in-law from his first marriage was one of his pilots.
And they told you some odd stories? Like,
I don't really speak to the former brother-in-law, but my dad's younger brother, Wendell, yeah, he had a lot of stories, and he narrated all the home videos for me to let me know what I was looking at.
So when they were doing the Arkansas thing, we're going to get into that story because that's it's pretty clever, to be honest with you. So at what point? So your dad's working for CIA. People have got to understand and realize that the CIA does not work with FBI and DEA.
Yeah, I think now, since after 9/11, when they did that thing, I think they communicate a little more, at least what I've heard, but not on drug stuff. I'm saying, but on terrorism stuff, I think.
I think if they ask about certain people, they do.
Yeah, but that was the time when it was the public got to know, like, it was so bad that different agencies knew about these terrorists here, and they did nothing because we don't work together. We don't share information. We're actual rivals, and that's the first time it's kind of that I've realized when the general public kind of heard a little bit about it. They had to force them to work together a little bit then because they don't. They're different agencies.
Yeah,
they have different agendas.
What I want to bring up for the people to understand is you told a story when you were on with Nelson. Mm-hmm. Honor Among Thieves, that you said that that the CIA during the Afghanistan war was?
Oh, yeah.
About the poppy plants?
Yeah.
And how they would allow them to grow poppy if they gave up, the Taliban, everything else, all this stuff, so they could flood it into China and Russia, right?
Yep, correct.
And you're like, man, that's messed up. Yeah, but look what China does with fentanyl here and other things. Exactly. You have to understand, if we didn't have the CIA, every country has their own CIA. Every country does, okay? So if you don't have one, you're allowing them, just like a bully. You don't have your bully, you don't have your bat, they're going to be beating up us. We're all playing games. Yeah. You have information, you have every different type of warfare there is. And you have to be playing on all fronts, if not. And people want to hear about our CIA doing bad stuff. well, they don't talk about what theirs is doing to our country, or people don't really understand. And when I told you about the fentanyl, you're like, damn, I wish I'd have remembered that. So I kind of want people to understand is that the CIA has a black budget. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Congress doesn't even get to see how much they get to spend. It's unlimited. Yeah. So, because people are like, well, how is that? I'm like, dude, we print money. Yeah. That's why we want. That's why we want the world to run on the American dollar, because then we can print unlimited amount of money.
Exactly.
These people that work for CIA, that like your dad, they got paid. It's endless. They just get cash nonstop. And think of how many people around the world they're paying daily for information.
You saw the guy just recently in the news. The CIA, he's a CIA official. He actually worked directly for CIA, and he got caught with all the gold. He just stole all the gold bars he said he needed for some kind of operation, and the FBI just busted him with it at his house. That was like a month ago. So
and you already know that's going to get wiped up under the rug, because that money was supposed to go somewhere. And that goes to show you that the DEA and FBI are not on the same page as CIA, and they were probably watching some criminal organization, and the CIA couldn't go and say, hey, this is us.
If the FBI and the CIA worked together hand in hand, the FBI would have to arrest probably 95% of everybody that works at the CIA. They commit crimes all day, every day. I mean, but to them, it's their job. It's like they have the kill list, and like when Obama was president, they had those kill list meetings where they killed an American citizen with a drone. It happens. The government's not your friend.
No, they're not. And they'll tell you we have to do it for the greater good.
Yeah.
So with that being said, when your dad's running all this stuff, they turned a blind eye. They probably let them know where they're patrolling, how to do it. They probably gave them the blueprints of it all. That's why they said blueprint. But in the movie, most people probably don't understand, and they don't want to give up too much. Yeah. Where did they get most of their information for the movie?
Well, they hired my family, myself, my mother, and my two full siblings as consultants. I reached out to Universal and made a deal with them. So we gave them just stuff about my dad's personality, different stories like the IRS story my mom putting the jewelry on. Then a friend of a guy who's a former CIA official, Terry Reed, who's still a friend of my family. They hired him as a consultant. That's the main ones that I'm aware of. I'm not sure. I don't personally know anyone else that they hired.
So Terry Reed, what ended up happening with him?
He's still alive. He lives in Missouri. He got cleared of any other court cases against him. He beat the government on all the lawsuits he filed. But the CIA he worked for them directly, and they tried to kill him when he saw the cocaine stuff happen in Mena, and he said he didn't want anything to do with it because he signed up to train pilots with my dad.
But I thought he was smuggling drugs from Colombia.
No, that's Roger Reed.
Oh, Roger Reed. Yeah. I'm talking about Roger.
Oh, yeah, so Roger's doing well. Roger just got out of prison a few years ago. He was doing life in Australia for cocaine smuggling, and he got out a few years ago. And he's been to visit me in Baton Rouge a couple of times. He and his wife. He did my first podcast show with me in Baton Rouge.
I'm gonna have to watch that.
He's got a great book. It's called Smuggler. Actually, his wife just came out with her first book called Smuggler's Wife. Roger's a very, very, very colorful individual. Very colorful.
So he has a lot of stories about your dad.
Yeah, he has a lot of stuff. He never quit smuggling. He stayed smuggling, and he only got out of prison. He was doing life again in Australia. He had a tanker ship basically full of cocaine. He got caught with in Australia, and he was doing life. But then right around COVID hit, randomly, he's an old farm boy from Georgia, and he was a neighbor, like distant neighbor of President Jimmy Carter. And Carter wrote a letter on his behalf to the Australian government saying, "This is an old family friend. He's always up in years. If y'all could consider granting him parole, it would be a nice gesture." And they actually got the ball rolling, and they released him, and he got out of jail that way.
Why did he never get busted here in the United States?
He did. He went to jail one time for the marijuana smuggling. That's when my dad took over the operation. Then when he got out of that, whenever my dad was working with the feds, my dad had a deal worked out for him to cooperate with him, and they were going to be able to keep all his money. They weren't going to touch any of his stuff, let him go free as long as he testified to everything my dad was telling him. And Roger said, "No, Bear, they're going to kill you." And he said, "I'm not taking the chance." He took his wife and they fled to Brazil. And then so when Dad got killed, they had no longer anything they could put against Roger, and so he kept smuggling.
Kept smuggling. Yeah. So do you ever hear any personal relationships between your dad and Pablo Escobar? Like some great stories, like them doing stuff or anything?
No,
wild?
I actually don't. No, I
No
don't,
stories.
no, nothing with him with either leaders of the cartel. Not other than him meeting with them. I don't know. No fantastical things. Nothing interesting happening or anything like that I can think of.
That's pretty wild because I mean he spent quite a bit of time down there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he probably wasn't telling. He wasn't telling me as a 9-year-old, and he wasn't. Probably,
Well, I didn't know if your
and
uncle or any of them
I
knew
guess he
anything.
did. Yeah, I guess he never. Never really told. I don't know. I don't know I don't know how much he hung out with them when he was down. If he went to meet with them,
Well, I mean, they had to sit around business table and stuff because I mean, the little bit of time that I was involved, I got to meet the
But
head one.
if they're just sitting on discussing business and he leaves and nothing really took place, I don't know how much. Nothing. I guess nothing interesting enough took place that it was shared.
Yeah, George Young had some pretty wild stories to talk about that. I've heard some pretty wild ones in prison.
Now there was Griselda Blanco.
Yeah.
Well, the time when my mom was with my dad in Miami, and he was having to go meet Griselda for something, and he was kind of complaining about my mom's like, "You want me to get out and go with you?" He's like, "No." She's like, "You're not meeting this woman. This woman is effing crazy." And he's like, "This woman, no, you're not meeting this woman." He said, "Last time she showed up to meet me, she was dressed like a nun, and the time before that, she showed up dressed like a cheerleader." He's like, and she's not right in her head." He's like, "You're not meeting this person." Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
A nun and a cheerleader. Nelson, you ever heard these stories? Hell no. Wow. That's pretty funny. So, I mean, but what's wild is I didn't realize how small a community this was until I went to federal prison and these old timers been in there for 20, 30 years. And, I'd be like, you ain't telling the truth. They go get their paperwork.
Yeah.
And they have Pablo Escobar in their paperwork and all this stuff. And, these movies make it out like they were the only ones doing it. No, there was a ton of people down there meeting Pablo Escobar. There was a ton of pilots and different organizations. Like, if you had a plane and you had the money, they would sell you anything you wanted. But they all would fly into the same areas, same times. Like, they all met each other over time. They all did. Refueling. In some way or another, they all knew each other in a way. Because I imagine your dad probably met George Young at some point.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I think my mom told me that was the case, but I don't remember exactly what their dealings were. But they had to have crossed paths.
Because I mean, George Young had the whole cartel here in the United States when his house, had his party.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty wild to think about that. Mm-hmm. There weren't no stories like that with your dad having them here.
No, there was. He was trying to get him here to have him arrested actually when he was working with the feds, and this I heard parts of this from and family story stuff, but then when I met Juan Pablo Escobar, I heard they got the full gist of it. That they most of them trusted my dad pretty fully, and Escobar was known for trying to probably like hiding in plain sight. I don't know if y'all probably seen that picture where it's Pablo Escobar and Juan Pablo, his son, at the White House. Y'all see that picture online, Nelson? Yeah, they're right in front of the White House doing a tour, and this is when he was the most wanted drug dealer in the world. And so they snuck into the country with fake passports, and they went and they had that famous picture by seeing them at the White House. And Juan Pablo told me, no, that's not even as bad as it gets. He said, we went on a tour of the DEA office in Washington. He said, my dad took me on a tour through we're talking to them, taking pictures with people. They have no idea that the man that's throwing the wanted pictures on the wall is standing there walking through the offices with me as a little boy. Because surely, if they think, man, that guy looks like Pablo Escobar, do you think anybody would say, hey, we need to go check him out? I think Pablo Escobar's down there in the coffee room. You know what I'm saying? You'd think the person's nuts.
Those stories are true. I didn't think it was true.
That is absolutely true. They actually he brought him to Disney World. He brought Juan Pablo and his daughter and his sister. They went to Disney World. They rented an RV and they toured all over Florida. And I'm not sure if they flew up to Washington. They may have taken the RV to Florida, and they took a tour of the DEA headquarters.
Oh my God, dude, that is absolutely just.
I mean, can you imagine? Like, man, that guy looks just like Pablo Escobar. Think we're gonna check him out? You think Pablo Escobar really?
Think about this, Nelson. Yeah. Back then, think about how populated the tours were back then.
Yeah.
Today, there's probably hundreds of people. Back in the day, it was probably 15 people. You know what I'm saying? So you stuck out.
Yeah. And so based upon that, the point was based on him how he likes to hide in plain sight like that. My dad knew this. So when they were on the run, like when my dad had flown to Nicaragua when Pablo loaded the plane, he actually was there personally, loaded it because they were on the run at the time from the Colombian government. So the cartel was stationed and living in Nicaragua. So my dad suggested to them, because he would, I guess, taking part in a business meeting with them and they were strategizing and stuff. He suggested to them that they were targeting places where they may be hiding next. He said, well, why not do just like, the hide in plain sight? Why don't y'all come back to America with me? I can fly you into the country. Y'all can stay on one of my properties in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Nobody's going to be looking for Pablo Escobar in Baton Rouge and the Medellín Cartel if they're living in Denham Springs, Louisiana. And they considered doing it. They thought it was a brilliant idea. And the way the cartel did, the families, they would all vote on it. They would take a poll, and the wives were included in that. Juan Pablo is the one who told me this story, and he said that all the cartel,
hold on, I don't want to interrupt you. How old was Juan at this time?
Well, he was 15 when his dad was killed. So
he was old enough that he knew about these meetings. He was there, and he
was told. No, he was told this by probably from his mother. His mother's
I
still
just wanted to clear
probably
it up.
from his mother. Yeah, and so all the male cartel figures were all in agreement with it, and most of the wives all thought it was a great idea, and they were going to do it. But he said they didn't remember whose wife it was, but one of the women that was a family member in the meeting disagreed and said, I don't know, there's just something about that guy I don't trust. And they were speaking to my dad like, no, you understand, he's like family. Like they said that Ochoa, Don Pablo Ochoa, the head guy, looked at my dad like almost like another son of his. And he said they absolutely wanted to do it. But one of the women, he said they don't remember which wife it was, said, no, I've got an uneasy feeling about this guy. There's just something about him I've never liked and I don't trust. And they're like, what are you talking about? He's all right. And they're like, because she wasn't in agreement, everyone had to be in full, it had to be a unanimous vote to do it. She wouldn't vote for it, so they went against it. And so if not for that, he would have flown the entire Medellín cartel to the Baton Rouge, Louisiana area, had them in a safe house thinking they're completely fine, and then so they could arrest them all. Because in the first movie they made about my dad, the Double Cross film with Dennis Hopper, there's a scene when he's flying back after they think his cover's been blown, he might die in Colombia. And when he was catching them on the radio flying back, he's telling them, all is well. And the DA agents are scrambling the hangar like, oh, my God, Barry's on the radio. He's fine. He's going to make it back. All is well. Senor Escobar's couldn't make it on this trip. They said, maybe next time I can they'll come the next trip. So that was them alluding to that thing that my dad was actually he thought he'd maybe to lure them to America to be arrested. And they were close, except for, like I said, for one woman that
so
was against it.
Juan verified this.
Yeah, he's the one that filled me in on all that.
So his mom told him, just like your
I
mom
guess his
you?
mother. I could ask him exactly who it was. After he and I met, he wrote about his second book. He wrote the whole first chapter is about he and I meeting, and he started doing research after meeting me, like learning more. He knew about my dad's story, but he didn't know all the details. So he started asking people that were still alive that worked with his dad and family members to get more content for the stories. And that's when they told him that story, and he let me know. Wow.
So when they came in to do the White House tour and all that stuff, they actually flew into a commercial plane, or did they sneak into a plane?
I'm assuming they snuck in. And just,
I was going to say, it's easy.
You'd have to ask him, and then they had fake passports. He might have stopped them. So.
Yeah, because back then security was easy.
That picture online I was asking about, I said, did y'all tour the White House? And I think he said, no, we didn't go on the White House tour. He said, we did better. We toured the DA. And I thought he was joking. I busted out laughing. He's like, no, we took a tour of the DA. We took a tour of the DA headquarters. There's pictures of my dad on the wall. He said, that's how my dad liked to do things, hide in plain sight. I mean, that's the last place in the world you would think Pablo Escobar would be. Am I right? The very last place in the world.
That is just
the very last place he would be.
That's not even a front hand slap. That's a backhand bitch slap to the.
Pablo was just a fucking crazy motherfucker.
Dude, he was a nut job.
And with his kids.
I mean, man, that's crazy. So hear me out. This is something I wanted to ask you. That we're talking about the C-130. At what fucking point did the cartel not realize what drug smuggler is flying a C-130?
Well, they had a thing the way he presented that to him, and I believe that was after that plane had flipped because the load was too big, and so when he buys the plane, they came up. I remember hearing Dad tell the story, but I don't remember if he came up with the idea or if the CIA did. But what they did was he went down there to meet with them about. Because I think he may have even asked them for the money to buy the plane. I'm not sure. But when he went down to meet with them, and they took a picture because it was the plane in the first movie they show it. It's a C-123 or C-130, but it's not military colored. The one he flew in was camouflage plane. It looks like a military plane. So to throw them off, the CIA ran an ad for that plane being for sale in a common. They had airplane magazines where you could look to buy planes, just like you had, what's the
Car Trader,
just like the Car Trader things back in the day. News on Wheels or whatever. The airplane magazines for that. So they ran a fake ad showing that plane in one of those. The CIA did in one of those magazines, and my dad went down there to show them. show that, hey guys, this is what I'm thinking about. This is how much it costs. What do y'all think? And showed them the plane in the magazine, circled like this. Then this can carry it easily. And like, oh yeah, the great idea, great idea. So when he showed back up with it, he'd already shown them the plane in the magazine that he was going to buy.
Yeah, but the cartel had a lot of pull in getting information. How did they know he had a place and he was trained? Like, so this had to be getting out. People had been talking.
Well, they didn't know my dad's name until the very end. They thought his name was Ellis McKenzie.
Really?
Yeah, my dad used Ellis McKenzie was a Haitian guy that my dad actually met in that prison when he was in the prison in Honduras, and he went to work for my dad. He was a boat captain, big, tall, skinny, strapped, but muscle, black gentleman from Haiti. And my dad was 5'10", 300 pounds at one point. This guy was like 6'4", trim.
It's a white name though. That's pretty crazy.
So my dad paid him to get a passport under his name as an alias, and so when he dealt directly with Escobar at that time, they thought his name was Ellis McKenzie. My dad did that so if anybody ever was looking for Ellis McKenzie, they find a Haitian guy. You know what I'm saying? Like this ain't a short round gringo pilot, And so, and I'd met Ellis, a nice guy. He stayed at our house a few times. It was the first person I ever heard with that kind of accent he had. Really, really great guy. Anyway, after my dad after he had gotten busted, my dad's former brother-in-law and Ellis kept working with the DA. Like they would. I don't think they had to. They were doing it just to kind of get back at the cartel, like the information they had, helping set up other busts and stuff. Well, the cartel, like I said, Ellis was from Haiti, and they eventually caught up to him somewhere in the Caribbean, and they killed him. I think it was on a boat. They caught up to him and his girlfriend at the time.
The cartel did?
Yeah, they killed him, and they did what they call a Colombian necktie. What they do for people for ratting, they cut his penis off and stuffed it down his throat, and then they killed his girlfriend and sliced her titties off, and that's how they found him.
Why would they kill them if he had nothing to do with it?
Well, no, they knew he did have something. He works with my dad, and they were setting up and still doing busts with him afterwards. And for my dad, I guess probably also for him, allowing him to use his name to when he screwed him over, as an alias. But him and my dad's other pilot kept doing busts, to get back at the cartel afterwards for what they did.
Yeah, so I don't know. To me, I'm mind boggled on like nobody in no other drug smuggling thing used that big of a plane.
No, there's no other drug smuggler that could procure a plane. Probably, I guess they could, but you wouldn't need to.
Everybody used King Airs and small stuff. Even Pablo Escobar. Now, when I talked to Jay Flores, El Chapo had 747s. He was flying them. He was going under, what do you say, under a non-charity or non-profit? A non-profit, and they were flying clothes and stuff down south. Mm-hmm. So they'd fly clothes down, load it full of cocaine, and fly the 747s up, slap full of cocaine. Yeah. And so, but he wouldn't fly in the United States. Not one smuggler I've ever met or ever talked to did something bigger than a twin engine like King Air or something. To hear a C-130, like, I don't know. Kind of blows my mind that the cartel wasn't like, who the fuck can fly this thing in here and land it without under the radar? That's just wild.
They helped him pick it out the magazine.
It just makes me believe in a way that they have something to do with the CIA has to do with.
I've heard stories later in life and different things where I think that I don't think that Escobar. I think Escobar knew my dad was working with the CIA. I think that he knew. I think he knew that I think the cartel at some point eventually were working. They knew that the drugs, the CIA was using the drugs to use the funds from it to fight that war. I think they just didn't expect the CIA to turn on them either. Just like we were talking about how when they decide they don't want to work with the Medellín Cartel anymore and the government's after them, the CIA sided with the Cali Cartel. They knew that they were the next biggest drug outfit in the world, and we're sharing intelligence with them. We're helping train soldiers with them to hunt down Escobar. So it's like, the government just moved on to the next thing. They didn't stop smuggling cocaine. They didn't stop making profits off drugs. They still do it to this day.
So, but this is my theory, kind of what I understood and a lot of research that I've done on it was that if you ever notice, they, just like your father, and we're going to get into it, when they're done with you, they're done with you.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'm not saying that the CIA was like, okay, Pablo, here's the keys to the car. You can go drive it. I'm CIA, right?
Yeah.
If you noticed, they didn't flip on him and have your dad turn on him until he was running and he was hiding. And now they could no longer hide him because he burnt the plane or blew the plane up out of the sky. Yeah. All these things. This is CIA. It's like, buddy, there's nothing we can do now.
He's taking on the Colombian government. One time they went to the government building and took, I think, their Supreme Court justices hostage.
Put
and,
the tank in. He drove a tank in and blew it
yeah,
up.
like he's man, we can't help you at this point. You're out of control.
And I think the thing is, what I'm trying to get at here is that they allowed him to operate, and he knew that.
Yeah, and he went.
And that's why he allowed your dad to do everything. But they probably didn't realize your dad was working for the CIA, but the CIA was everything. And now that he went against the government, he's in hiding. The CIA's like, we're going to take his ass out. And they used your dad to do it in a way to not blow their cover. I mean, think about it. That's what they do. It's just like we're going to get into like how they set your dad up at the end. I mean, that was just sitting the thing and silencing him because our government does things in weird ways. So at this point, you're not living in Arkansas. You're living in...
Yeah, never lived in Arkansas. Been there several times, but never lived there.
Where was this bank at? So is it true about the bank?
Yeah, one of the banks in Mena. My dad had so much money in it, they either gave whatever the scene was in the movie, I forget. They either gave him the vault or they built a new vault for him to put his money in because he had deposited so much money there.
And to be in that small of a town, how did not it get around that? Like what?
What did? That's why the IRS and the IRS seasoned dad stuff that was started. That investigation was started out of Mena. Somebody, the IRS agents in Arkansas, is who started that.
I mean, as smart as he is and the ties he had, why would he do that?
Well, that's the thing. My dad was a very smart individual, and so there's things that you would think he did that seemed careless, but the only thing that would make sense is that because he had government protection and thought he would always was going to always have it. That's the way you would do that. Because they had like women that worked that you'll see on that Terry Reid documentary I sent you. They have like women that worked in the airport there that they would send to go to make deposits from the office for $9,999, so it doesn't trip the reporting thing. And these women,
they had that back then too.
Yeah, and these women knew it was illegal, and they were going and doing that. And they said when it was time for them, when they got called to testify for the court, they never asked any questions about the money. That's the only reason they were there was to testify that we were asked to make deposits. Then we were brought in, and they never even asked about that and sent home, and the investigation was canceled. But they basically left Dad holding the bag on all that. Said he wasn't laundering any money for the government. It was just for him drug smuggling.
So the part that he owned the whole town, started all these things, and there's 10 banks in a small town, it's all fake.
Yeah, he didn't.
Okay, that's just Hollywood's one. They do it to make it look really good and stuff.
Yeah.
What about the money hidden all throughout the house and you can't find it? Was that true?
We never had any money hidden at the house because I would have been all over that, But and the dog in the movie, they had I forget the dog's name in the movie, but my dog's name actually was Tailspin. It was a girl. That's the one thing they got really wrong on the movie that I wish they'd have got right.
The funny part about it all is, I'm gonna tell you one of the funniest things.
One of the places he had money hidden. I seen his shop where the IRS came to. I told you about when he was burning the stuff. My Uncle Wendell had told me this. I didn't remember. He said, "You don't remember the staircase that went upstairs to the shop?" No, he said, "Yeah, your dad when he got the shop, he had the staircase redone, and it was on a steel or a metal staircase under that wood." He said, and that was had a door for it, and the entire staircase was filled with money. So when the police are there searching, they don't know. They're walking up and down $100 bills. And they have no idea. He said that whole staircase was built just to store cash in.
What happened to it? They find it?
I'm sure he took that out at some point. When at the end, when Dad was working with the government, he was still have to pay all his employees' payroll, and he didn't have the same income coming in. So he was, and he couldn't leave the country to go get money out of the Cayman Islands. So he was having to use, the cash that he had around like that. He was having to use to make payroll a lot.
What company did he have to do payroll?
No, all his employees that the smugglers, the pilots that worked for him,
Oh, so he was still running, or he was just paying them just to be quiet now?
Mostly to be quiet, but I mean, he was still doing operations, but they worked for the government, against the cartels. My dad didn't just do the bust against Escobar and them. After that, he went and infiltrated some. I think it was some. I'm not sure what it was, but it was I think it might even still be until recently the biggest cocaine bust in the state of Nevada history. They showed that, and he went out there and was busting. He just went out there and they knew Barry Seal, this big fish is in town, and he some of them for operation DA had been working on for like 3 or 4 years or even longer and couldn't get anywhere. And he was out there for 3 months and brought down the whole operation.
Really?
And actually, my older half brother Barry Jr. We were at the hotel. They made us stay in the room. We didn't know what was going on. Me and my older brother. But my older brother, he was in the casino with my dad. They wanted to have it look like because there was federal agents all over the casino when they're doing this big bust. But they wanted to make it look like Dad was bringing family. family members, he wouldn't allow around that stuff before when it wasn't government involvement. So since it was federal agents, my older brother Barry was in the casino with him, Barry Jr., and the casino, because they were in on the bus, they have as many chips, they gave as many chips as you wanted, and you could spend as much as you wanted, but you couldn't win the money. You had to lose all the money in the casino because they wanted to show how these are big, Barry and his family high rollers.
How old is your brother?
Now?
No, how much older was he?
He was 18, around this time, 19.
Oh, so he was that old when your dad was so young?
Yeah. He had just started kind of working with dad a little, not doing anything illegal, but like errand boy for dad, running errands for him and being around some of the guys.
So he get to see a lot of stuff that he tells you about, or dad kept.
He wasn't involved in. Dad didn't involve in anything illegal at that time, but he'd got his pilot's license. He just started flying.
I just figured he'd been like, man, there's a lot of weird stuff
Well,
going on.
he saw something, but just nothing.
Yeah.
He just started coming around that whenever dad got killed.
Damn. So, man, this is pretty wild. So on the part you were talking about that the feds got on him, it all started from the IRS because of the bank.
No, that's when the IRS, the IRS's investigation started in Mina.
Okay, so how did it go from IRS to drug smuggling?
No, the IRS was after the drug. He got in trouble with the drugs first. Then after that,
how did he get busted on the drug?
he never got caught with cocaine. The original thing started with some BS stuff. The first thing was the feds in Baton Rouge paid a former friend of my father's, who was this guy that was my dad. His nickname was Sweetie. His name was Kenneth Webb. He was a guy that was former pilot that was down on his luck, that had moved to Missouri or something, had some issues with his family, with a divorce and child custody things and stuff. Well, the feds searched him out, knowing that my dad knew him, and said, "Look, we can help. We need you to go back and get back in Barry Seal's life, because then get some intel for us. And if you don't do this, we know you're having some custody issues with your son. We'll make sure you'll never see your son again if you don't help us with this. But if you will, we'll help you get your son back." So he was willing. He came back around. My dad was always, loyal to old friends, and this guy needing help. My dad gets him a car, sets him up in an apartment. Kind of, and he's a pilot. So probably was going to use him for stuff down the road if he wanted a job doing smuggling. I'm sure that's where Dad was going with it, but he didn't. He hadn't involved him in anything yet. The feds come to Kenneth Webb once he's around Dad a little bit and say, "Look, we want you to testify that Barry Seal had you deliver to him a shoebox with a kilo of cocaine in it." And Kenneth's like, "I've never seen drugs. I was an alcoholic. I think he was like, I don't even know what. I just signed the paper because they told me to do it." Well, he eventually feels bad and tells my dad, "Look, the feds had me do this, Barry. I messed up. I signed this thing." Dad's like, why don't you just come to me? We have attorneys for that. I would help you. So he acknowledges that he was pressured by the cops to write this. That it wasn't true. He signed this thing and never had. Think about, why would my dad, who flies a C-130 full of cocaine, have a shoebox of cocaine delivered to him? It makes no sense. He didn't handle kilos of cocaine. So the guy admitted he lied under oath, and that it was perjured testimony. And they brought that to the judge, and they refused to remove it as evidence. Even though the guy's saying, "I lied. I'll testify under oath. I lied. I was afraid they used my son against me." They still said that they used that to put charges against him.
So you're telling me your dad's bringing in C-130s of cocaine? Who's picking up this cocaine? Because the reason I'm going to get to this is that it's wild that nobody that he was selling to cooperated against him. It was somebody else that brought
he
it
wasn't selling. The cocaine was going to the cartel guys. Dad wasn't distributing this.
So the cartels were here to pick it up, and then they did what they did.
Dad's guys, once he got it, put it in trunks of cars, they drove it to Florida, dropped it off, car and everything. You can get that back. You just give it to them. I'll tell you a unique story. When the load that he took the pictures of Escobar and them on the C-130, or whatever, they flew into Homestead Air Force Base, they didn't want. Dad was going to continue working with the feds, and the government can't allow. They can't allow cocaine brought in and let it hit the street. They have to seize it. But they didn't. If they seized it, it would blow my dad's cover. So they came up with the way they were gonna stop from hitting the streets with trying to not blow Dad's cover. That much cocaine that normally you do transporting cars. That much cocaine they bought a Winnebago. It was loaded inside of a Winnebago. Well, the guy the Colombians had driving it, with the idea they came up with is the feds were going to have an undercover person in an unmarked car wreck into the back of the Winnebago like an accident. They said the driver, probably don't speak English, he's going to run, I promise. He's going to take off. We're just going to let him get away. Then he'll report back to cartel, "No, somebody hit me. random person random traffic accident. And so I left. I fled. I got out of there before the cops came. That probably would have worked. What happened is the undercover person hits the Winnebago. What they didn't know is the cartel had their own people in different cars following the Winnebago to track it for that kind of thing, to see if anything weird happens, or to see, I guess, if a rival person tried to rob it or just kind of protect it. So they see the car hit it, and it looks like a legit accident, and they see the guy gets out and he takes off running. But what happens was a good Samaritan bystander sees this, gets out his car and chases the guy and catches him and holds him down. And so they had to send a unit because the person won't let him go. They're holding him on the side of the road. We have to send the cops. The police the eventual unit had to come up and arrest the guy. And so after that, they thought that was suspicious. The cartel's like, well, our spotters in the back said something didn't look right. You see what I'm saying? So if it's not for this bystander catching them, that it would have looked okay. And this whoever that person was, had no idea the shithole they had just stepped into.
Oh, man.
So that after that big bust, that's when my dad flew down there again. They were worried that his cover had been blown, he'd get killed, but he still went and flew and met with them a couple more times, and that But then it not long after that is when the pictures were released, and they knew that it was him. That load had been.
So did he get arrested for the kilo of cocaine in the box?
They put charges against him. I'm not sure if he was put in arrested in jail. I think they just had charges pending. They were going to put a continuing criminal enterprise charge on him.
So how could they not bust him for bringing all this cocaine in? Like they
never caught him with a load of cocaine.
How
could
they bust it? They just couldn't figure out his patterns and his routines.
No. And the other charge he had that he started work with the feds was in Florida. It was for some Quaaludes that weren't even real Quaaludes. Someone had asked him to fly like a couple drums full of Quaaludes in from Colombia. And when I was told by his younger brother, my Uncle Wendell, he told me that it was whoever the person he was transporting it for must have got ripped off, because he said that the samples they were given in Colombia were real Quaaludes, and when it got here, it was just sugar pills.
Oof.
And so when it came out that they were fake, somebody along the way threw my dad's name into it, and he got charged with a conspiracy charge to smuggle Quaaludes. It wasn't cocaine, and they were sugar pills. They weren't even real. It wasn't even real Quaaludes.
So, damn, this is pretty wild. So they couldn't even bust him for nothing. They couldn't get his load. So you were telling a story about how they were watching him so heavy. And your dad didn't want to give up then? He didn't want to say, like, F this, I'm done?
Well, he just stopped making the flights, and that's when he had his brother-in-law as for sure. Dad called him Ace. He was probably his most go-to pilot, but he had several pilots that he would send on his, instead, because he couldn't leave. The feds were everywhere he went. The feds.
How do you know that they were on him?
How do you know? There was 20. I'm sure he would talk to him. Like there's the first move, they show him waving to him and telling him where he's going to go all day so they don't get lost when they're following him. Like he would. There's times that he would see the agents or whatever the agents were in a restaurant, know that, and he'd pay for their bill and just smile and wave to them. They'd flip him off and get up and walk out. Yeah. There's a story I was told by a guy. As if he was a former DA agent 5-6 years ago. He bought a restaurant chain in Baton Rouge, one of the restaurants, and my buddy Derek, met. He and I were in there eating, and somebody said, "You got to meet the owner. He's got some stories about your dad when he was a DA agent." He's like, "Man, he's only tracked one load that your dad was on. I wasn't working his case." He's like, "But he would mess with the agents so bad." He said they hated your dad. He said, "I thought he was funny. The stuff he did. I got the humor." He said one time the state police and the FBI had worked for one of the banks my dad would go into in Baton Rouge and make deposits. They got a girl to go through all the training, undercover agent to go through all the training, like a bank, getting hired at the bank as a bank employee to get in there to try to catch him doing some of the money laundering stuff. She gets in there. They worked on this for months, all prime and race. She's in the bank. She said the first day your dad goes into the bank while she's there, he comes out, goes across the payphone, calls, I think his name was Jack at the time, the head of the state police. "Hey, Jack, just wanted to tell you, I went to the bank to make a deposit today, and I saw the girl, your new agent you have working in there. I just wanted to tell you, you're going to have to wake up earlier than that to get over on me. But said some nice things about it, hung up the phone." He's like, "How the hell did he know that we had done that? How did he know?" And that really pissed off the
Probably the CIA. CIA was probably telling him, hey, watch out for this. What's going on? His handler was probably telling him everything, getting all the intel. What's so funny is that I don't talk about a lot of the behind the scenes that was going on mine because I'm saving it for this TV series if I ever get this deal going. but I'll fill one in. So my next door neighbors used to be drug smugglers. So my hometown, I grew up around a lot of drug smugglers that actually flew planes, the boats, everything. And
I wonder if that's how my old neighbors speak about us. You know.
so this old guy, Jess finally got to meet him, old Buzzy. So my next door neighbor, he's an old timer. He's about to pass away. He's not a good. He's doing really bad. He was in Vietnam and everything else. So him and this other guy, he was a smuggler. My next door neighbor, I don't think he ever flew on the planes, but he had to do on this end of the smuggling part. You know what I'm saying? Unloading and moving the shipments and stuff. I mean, from what I understand, he had 2,100 or 1,200 kilos hidden under like a john boat in his backyard or whatever, flipped over, and they would hide the kilos under it and stuff like that in plain sight. And so anyways, he would get up like 4:30 in the morning, 4:30, and he'd sit out there and drink coffee on his front porch, and just he was an early riser. And then he'd be like, I come outside, he's like, I've been waiting for you to get up. I'm like, what's up, Buzz? And he'd be like, come over here, I need to talk to you. And the other one would be over there and be like, boy, you famous. And I'm like, famous for what? He's like, yeah, you got him rolling around here again. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, boy, they're on you. I said, which vehicle is it? So it was so funny. I was out there mowing my yard one day, and my front yard, because how it was landscaped and how it is, a small house, there was very little. So I just had a self-propelled little lawnmower, right? Because there's just little chunks of grass I had to mow. I'll never forget, I'm mowing it real quick, and I see the car coming real slow. So I pull my pants down, got my ass hanging out, and I'm walking the mower, looking at them, dude. And you could just see both of them in the windshield just staring at me, like letting me know that, they got me, or like I know who they are. And so when I had law enforcement on payroll, I knew when my phone was being tapped. So I got the thing that my phone was being tapped. So I'm like, hey, your phone's being tapped. I'm like, really? Holy shit. So I used to always tell them when my phone was tapped, I tell my buddies all the time, like, hey guys, say hi to the feds. And my buddies would be like, hi feds. I'm like, tell them to suck a dick to their neck bust. And we would mess with them. Well, when my attorneys got all my phone taps, they call me and they're like, hey, actually, you need to come see us like right away, and you need to bring your mom. And I'm like, whoa, why did they tell me to bring my mom? So we get there, and they hit play, and they're like, hi, feds, suck a dick to your neck bust. And she hits pause on the computer, and she put the disc in and goes through it, and she's like, so how'd you know? I'm like, somebody told me. Who told you? I said, who wants to know? You or the feds? She goes, who told you that your phone was being tapped? I said, who wants to know? You or the feds? And this is my high dollar attorney. This is Brian Steele's wife. Brian Steele's Young Thug and P. Diddy's attorney.
Okay.
So I had big time attorneys and everything. And then and I looked there and I said, it sounds like the fucking feds want to know. I said, my attorney, I'm thinking to myself, why is my attorney asking me this question? Why is she demanding it out of me? And she's getting aggressive with me. And I'm thinking, like, this is not good. So I knew that they were watching, people see it, but I imagine back then they were probably way more reckless, because you got to think it's a small town.
Yeah.
Think your dad probably had people in that town payroll like, oh, this girl doesn't live here. She's new in town.
Yeah.
Everybody in town's like, hey, Barry, like, there's this new girl working at the bank that nobody's ever seen a day of their life. So think about it. I mean, how small was that town back then?
Well, Baton Rouge, it was pretty. It wasn't as small as the Mena town. Yeah, it's small enough.
But Mena, how small was Mena?
Mena was tiny. This happened in Baton Rouge. Mena was very tiny. I think under 5,000 people.
Ooh. So, but my point of it is that it's kind of weird that your dad didn't shut the whole operations down when he knew they were on them. I mean, that should rock somebody to the core. That tells me your dad had so much political pull that he thought he was untouchable.
Yeah, again, that's I, growing up, before I knew too much about the government involvement, I would think, man, I knew Dad was a very smart guy. He was, why would he? I mean, like, just for instance, my mom was telling me a story. The FBI, his office that he had in Baton Rouge, we talked about. It's like in the inner city part of Baton Rouge, and all the neighbors were his friends because he gave them money and stuff. So they would call him, Mr. Barry, they got somebody in a van parked in our yard, listening, looked like they're listening, trying to listen to your shop. We told them, get the hell out of our yard, So they call him one day and tell him there's a van parked down the street from the shop, Barry, and he was at the shop with my mom. So he goes and looks out, and it's the FBI in a van, monitoring the shop, and he walks out in the middle of the road and drops his pants and moons them, And my mom's like, why? Why would you do that? And I'm thinking, my dad was a smart guy. Why would he taunt these agencies that he knows have all the, he couldn't just be that reckless. But it makes sense. He thought he was protected. He wouldn't have done. You don't taunt the FBI and the DEA. You wouldn't just do that if you didn't. Why invite more trouble on you than you already have?
How old was he at this time, you think?
That was 46 when he was killed. So it's all, it was roughly, around 40. He started smoking coke with Roger. Yeah.
He's a funny motherfucker at that age. That's my age.
There was
Dude. That's a sense of humor right
there
there.
was
Because
another story. I'm not sure which agent told me this. It may have been the same guy that told me about the bank teller thing, but I'm not sure it was the FBI or the DA. I think it was the FBI had a surveillance airplane that they were flying over our neighborhood, but it was real high up. You know what I'm saying? But they were able to I guess it could pick up the telephone communication or something. I'm not sure what exactly they were after.
it's radios, two-way radios.
Okay, well then
That's what the military does over the Congress. They go over the jungles. So one of the guys that lived in my neighborhood, he moved in and he started talking to one of the girls in the neighborhood that we knew. And I was probably in my young 20s. He was the same age as me or a year older than me. He was in the military. And what he would do is he would sit in planes, because I asked him, like, what the hell? He's like, I got to go for this many hours. And they would just fly over the jungles of Colombia, or to Panama, just fly over these certain areas where the FARC, and they have some type of a system where they can pick up the radio when they talk on two ways. It picks up signals so they can sit there and listen to their conversations in the jungle.
Well, that's what they were doing. So they flew over our house. And there was times they didn't keep the helicopter house a lot, but it was the times he would have a helicopter parked at the house. He had an office he usually kept his at, but they said the plane passed over on the first pass, and they, I guess, made a loop and come back for a second pass. And as they're coming, my dad got in the helicopter and just lifted it straight up in the air to when they got across my house. He was just sitting there hovering in the helicopter facing the airplanes that come to let him know I know who y'all are and I knew what y'all are doing, and flipped them off as they passing.
So is it true? Is anything truth about where he landed in the beginning thing, where he landed in the neighborhood and he took off on the kid's bicycle?
No, technically that's not.
That's Hollywood?
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
What about the parts?
He did. That was kind of a nod. He did crash a plane when he wasn't smuggling at the time in like the or maybe the early 60s. He crashed a plane and had to crash on a plane in a neighborhood in Baton Rouge. But there wasn't any smuggling involved in it.
What about the point where DA pulled up besides with the jet and he was like, boys, back the throttles off?
No, that's probably a nod to like the thing I was saying about him lifting up the plane and confronting
them stories come out of other drug smuggling things. So the guy that I did time with that had Pablo Escobar, everybody in the business, he even knew where I got my middle name from. One of the smugglers I got my middle name from knew about his story. And what's so wild is that he would tell me that they would fly through Cuba airspace because it was the shortest route come through Cuba, right over Cuba. And Cubans, what's his name, Castro, would send up jets, right? And all you had to do was show them like kilos of cocaine and point to America, and then they give you the thumbs up. As long as you were running to America, they didn't care.
The Cubans were when Dad would land in Nicaragua, they had Cuban soldiers there also that were helping load the cocaine. Cuban and Nicaraguan soldiers were there. The Cubans were involved with the coke the whole time.
Yeah, they were involved. That's pretty wild. So get back on the thing about your dad being investigated. Now, you told me earlier that you most posited that because the part of the movie where he gets arrested the first time, right? Remember where they brought him in and he was taunting the agents, talking about, I'll give every one of y'all a brand new Cadillac with $1 million.
That scene didn't happen exactly like that.
But that, now what storyline is that? Because he did get released. He said, I bet you within 24 hours.
I think that's more of a nod to just all the investigations in Arkansas and Mena that they like I told that guy Russell Welch that's in the documentary saying, look, I had the evidence to go make an arrest, and my superiors would tell me no, don't touch it, and then they didn't understand it, like that we'd investigate this guy, we'd get enough to make a raid, and we were told no, stand down, never given a reason why.
Did he ever get arrested where Clinton or somebody that got him out? Isn't there a time that he did get arrested that he's like, I'm going to walk out of here soon, and they did? Or it's not true?
It didn't happen like that, no, but there was a time, this is before the drug smuggling stuff started. I'm not sure what year it was, but I think it was in the early 70s, maybe mid 70s. My dad and this guy, Jim Miller, who's passed away, it was around the time my dad got arrested with the explosive thing. They got arrested for something in Arkansas, and I'm not sure what it was for. And I don't remember exactly what it was. It may have been something involved with the C4 explosives. But the guy, Jim, at the time said when we got arrested, I was all worried. And Barry kept telling me, don't worry about anything. Everything's going to be fine. And when they got bonded out of jail, he said the written on my paperwork, 'cause I didn't know who the guy was at the time, was Attorney General William Jefferson Clinton, is who signed the bond papers to get them out when they were released from jail. And then the charges were dropped later, and then nothing ever happened to them. That's when Bill Clinton was the Attorney General of Arkansas. I'm not sure if that was early or mid-'70s.
So what all?
How would he know my dad? Then at the very least, my dad was a convicted explosive smuggler, you know?
Yeah.
And he had some connections with the Attorney General of Arkansas at that time, where he was signed, him and the buddy were signed out of jail, and the charges disappeared.
What So tell everybody how his bus went down. Like when he started cooperating, what happened? Did they finally raid? They got into at the beginning of our conversation.
They got a conspiracy charge for the Quaalude thing, and then one thing.
Oh, that's what they got him on.
Yeah, it was conspiracy for Quaaludes that weren't even real. And then Baton Rouge added charges, said for continuing criminal enterprise, I guess for the cocaine, for the fake box that they saying having the guy lie and say he delivered a shoebox of cocaine. They added charges later after the Quaalude thing. It was complete BS.
So he didn't even get hit with that much shit.
And then the Quaaludes weren't real; they were fake sugar pills.
How was he going to get 3 life sentences over that little bit of dope?
Because they were adding the continuing criminal enterprise charge, and they were then the money laundering stuff in Arkansas. And just once they had him on one thing, things started stacking up against.
Yeah, but
him.
that was before they did the crime bill, because that was in '86, wasn't it?
No, he got busted at 84.
I know, but he would have did hardly any time back then. They went hard on crime back then.
He was looking at 3 life sentences.
He was the first.
He was the first. I believe he was the first time they used the CCI that wasn't against the Italian mafia. They invented it for the Italian mafia, and I think he was the first non-mafia person that they used it against.
Holy shit! So he agrees to cooperate, and then he says, "I'll give up all the big guys."
Well, at first, they didn't really believe him. They didn't even really know the DA guys didn't even know much who was. They had no idea how much cocaine was coming in. They didn't. They had really had no clue of anything going on. As you know, he started providing things. You know, the judge, he was not supposed to get off scot free. The judge in Florida, they said, look, you're gonna get time reduced, and he gave us. But the judge is the hardest drug judge. I mean, he's the judge in Miami. You know, he's the hardest drug judge is. You're gonna do some time, but we're going to get it reduced. We're going to we have agents lined up around the block. They'll testify for you. That's when he went and started. So, look, well, now the stuff with the Colombians are over. He went to Nevada and infiltrated that organization I was telling you about. He did. So, he would do other busts for y'all. He ended up doing so much that the judge in Miami said, look, I rarely do this, if ever, for a drug case, because I believe y'all the worst offenders are, but your cooperation level has risen to an extreme, by putting your life in peril so much, you've earned your life back. You're free to go. So in Baton Rouge, the feds there had signed an agreement that they would give him no more time than he got in Florida. Because they thought for sure he was going to get time in Florida. They knew their case was shaky because they had a perjured witness, and fake evidence. So they said, look, we'll agree whatever he gets in Florida, we won't give him any more than that. So when he gets off with no time in Florida whatsoever, they're pissed. The judge is furious. Said, I was not under the impression he was not getting any time. I would never sign this agreement. So that's why I said, well, I can't, I'm hamstrung with this. I can't give him time because I signed a legal agreement. I can't do it. But I can give him probation. And part of that probation is he's got to stay at the halfway house. They said, well, you're setting him up to be killed. They got a $1 million contract out in his life. And it's published in the newspaper. It's public record. He's going to be Salvation Army. He has to be there every evening at 6 p.m., and he can't leave till 7 a.m. in the morning.
Or how much that judge was paid for that?
Probably but maybe.
So the judge was warned about the death.
Oh, he absolutely knew. They told him he was going to be killed. He said, I don't care. He made this choice. They probably paid the judge with Oxycontin,
I forgot. You did say that he did get in trouble for using.
He was a pain pill addict.
So what gets me is when the IRS is investigating him, they had to realize that this guy was bigger than what he was if the IRS was on him and he owned all these properties and all this stuff. They had to go, holy shit, what is he up to?
I mean, they knew he was. They knew he was money laundering. They put him. There was money laundering charges also filed on him, from the stuff in Arkansas for sure.
How much money would he get charged for money laundering in the indictment?
I'm not sure.
You never seen the indictment?
No, I don't. I was a kid when all that happened. I don't. Believe it or not, I don't really research all the stuff on my dad too much. It's not all that interesting to me. It's my life story. It's like my life's involved with it, so I discuss it. But I haven't my mom was all involved in trying to find out different things. I'm just. If I had the papers, I would read it, but I've never really looked into it.
I agree with what you're saying, but I would have to. Because you reached out to well, we're going to get into Pablo Escobar's son.
Yeah, but that was more about doing something to help them. You know, I was wanting to make sure that the Escobars didn't, feel a burden that they had, that they had to carry for what their dad did and the guys who actually shot him. I didn't want that was more to do something good, bring something good to them out of a situation that they probably didn't deserve. Do something that I felt was the right thing. It wasn't about discovering anything about some hidden secret about my dad's life.
It just blows my mind that the government did a CCI on your dad when they didn't even know how big he was. So what they thought, he was just a small time guy.
No, the government knew he was. I mean, Baton Rouge, I guess in Louisiana, he was considered the biggest drug smuggler in Louisiana for sure.
But they didn't have her bust him with no drugs. So how do they know that?
I guess the informant, they had people. They had people around him. Some people informing on him. They give them information, but they never caught him doing it. They weren't able to catch him. That's why they were so angry. They knew he was big. They knew he was getting away with it. They knew they had the Barry Seal 24-member task force following him everywhere he goes. He doesn't go anywhere with payphones, and we know the cocaine's still coming in. They couldn't put that's what made him so angry.
So it was true about the payphones.
And then he's mooning them and stuff. Rubbing their faces and messing up their undercover operations at the bank and over the house, and they just taunting them and. One video I have, and it's at his office, and the FBI was parked next to his shop, and they were coming, I guess, to try to bug the office, and their car won't start, and so they're stuck there. And people call and tell my dad, looks like some agents outside your office. So he has a couple of guys. This guy Gary who works with him. My dad's got a video camera, and he's zooming in on the IRS guys. Like, so what agency y'all with, fellas? What agency y'all with? And they get out like they're doing something. They take down some license plate numbers. He's like, Gary, take down their license plates. And he's just like yelling at them and messing with them and video them. They're pretty embarrassed about the situation, I guess. They finally get the car started and drive off. And the agent is in the car that day. He's had a bone to pick with my dad ever since then. I think it's kind of petty. But
how many agents have you talked to?
I've never spoke to this guy. He wrote a book, but my mom spoke to him. I spoke to one of the FBI agents that was actually the head of the Arkansas Financial Crime Division for the FBI that investigated my dad for money laundering up there. And he told me, he looked for him, he couldn't find him. He said, yeah, I think I actually have some videos still from when we were staked out in the woods filming the airport of you and your brother out there playing on some of the times y'all went up there with your dad. And he went and looked, but he couldn't find them.
Oh, man, that would have been great.
He's actually a nice guy. And I met him. I didn't seek him out for anything like that. He's retired now. He's a private investigator. And a friend introduced me to him and said, I think he knew your dad. And so that's how I met him. It wasn't like me doing any kind of research on my dad's stuff. But I loved it if he'd had those videos. He said, I had them for years. He said, I don't know what happened to them. He said, but as you and your brother, as kids, y'all out there playing and we're in the woods filming.
So your dad was filming. You said you had video of when they were following him, tracking him, and he pulled a permit to do drops. And meanwhile, he's dropping cocaine right in front of the police.
Since he had the they called the Barry Seal Task Force, who looks at it, DEA, FBI, state police, all these different agencies, 24 people that tracked him everywhere he went. When he wanted to film a cocaine drop, and so you're able to do that at night, so you have to do it during the day. And with the task force following you, how are you going to do that? So he had an airstrip in Summerfield, Louisiana. It's right down the road still from where I live. And everybody knew it was his airport. A big sign up, Barry Seal's airstrip. I have some video of my Facebook and stuff too of the airstrip, but. So he went to the local government, told him he was thinking about starting a business to where he was going to parachute feed out like to farmers and like say wherever there's a drought out west, is it more feasible to fly the planes and parachute the feed than ship it there by truck? So, but we're gonna we need to test it, see if the bags are going to bust open, and then it wouldn't be feasible. So we applied for a permit, and he got it, and he asked, could y'all have the police come out and let the neighborhoods that are by the airstrip know low-flying planes. We don't want people think they're crashing in the neighborhood or they're going to be any danger or anything. And if y'all could let them know and kind of watch the area to make sure everything is okay in case we have an emergency. And the state police said, yeah, we can do that. And so they said, well, surely he's not doing anything illegal in the middle of the day where he'd invite us out here to ask us, could y'all be there, to monitor this. And right in the middle of it, he's got a helicopter flying next to the airplane with a film crew and my Uncle Wendell on the ground and another guy filming. And my uncle's narrating it, and he said, here we go right here, guys, Cocaine City. The first daytime cocaine drop in the history of the state of Louisiana. You see the plane come by, and you see the bales pushed out, the big bags of coke. It's 300 kilos. Parachute pops out, falls, hits the ground, the metal sheath busts open. My dad comes over the rise in the helicopter with a hook on it, and they hook the strap to the helicopter. My dad takes it off. In the middle of the daytime, protected by the state police unwittingly.
And
As far as we know, Uncle Wendell was right. It was the first daytime cocaine drop in history.
And you
of
have
state
that video.
My family, yeah, we still have the video. 40 years been
Is
holding
there
on
any
to
way
that.
that you can screenshot it and send it to me, Nelson? Or I
got-
want to see
I've got a tiny clip of it.
Okay,
in
when
my
we're
phone.
done, I want to see it when we're done.
Okay.
You don't have to send it.
You don't have to send it.
Yeah, no, you don't send it to us. You show it to us later.
Yeah,
That is pretty wild.
I'm
gonna
holding
have
on
to
to it.
see
So I
that.
gotta figure out. I gotta get it all.
That's gonna be some good shit right there, Nelson. You hear me?
Yeah, I gotta figure out the best way to do it and how I can.
I don't want to copy till it gets out there. I don't want to be responsible for it. So I want to see it.
And it's family stuff, so I'd have to run it by. I do have a clip of it. I can show you.
I just want to see it. You don't have to send it to me.
Yeah. I'm not going.
I just want to see it.
Yeah.
But anyways, okay. So your dad, wow, he does this stuff right in front of these people. That's pretty good.
I mean, it's
I'm not
obviously.
gonna lie.
Really think about it's the best way to do it. You know,
Yeah.
the task force, because surely they, just like when the Escobars, the tour in the DA place, surely the cops will. Barry Seals asked specifically for the state police, who he knows running this task force against him. Could y'all be out here with some units to let the neighbors know we're dropping feed and not to be? So surely he's wouldn't try to drop coke. Yep.
Yeah.
Who
You
would
think
do
his
that?
handler had something to do with this? The CIA handler, like giving him, telling him and how to do it and stuff?
As far as I know, he didn't have one direct handler, and I don't know that that's positive. My mom was told this one guy who was a military general in Baton Rouge that was also, people said CIA, that a couple of people told me that he was my dad's CIA handler. People ask me a lot about the American-made movie, the guy Schaefer or whatever in the movie's portrayed. They asked people like, did everybody find out who that SOB was? Like what's his? And the way the Universal did that, their answer to that was he was an amalgamation of several CIA handlers that Dad would have talked to. Is how they came up with that from their investigation. There wasn't just one guy they're blaming it all on. It was
Were they kind of were?
And I don't know if
Did they get it accurate of how he really was and how they
that's
treated
what I'm
him?
saying. I don't know if that. I don't think they found one person. They just it would be several different people in the CIA.
Well, I didn't know.
but I don't know if
you never talked to none of the handlers.
No.
Nobody's ever talked to him. Did your uncle or anybody else know who they were?
They didn't. My uncle and them didn't even think Dad worked with the CIA. My Uncle Wendell didn't think he was involved with the CIA because the people that worked directly for my dad knew nothing about any CIA involvement. If he did, he wouldn't. He didn't.
Well, how
tell
did he
them.
get the contract with the guns going down south?
I think the way I saw what Dad was doing, he had one group of people, like my uncle and people that were involved with the cocaine side of it, and then it seemed like he dealt other people with the guns, like Terry Reid and the CIA. I think he kept those things kind of separate. No one that's worked for him has ever come out and said, unless they were afraid to. My Uncle Wendell would.
Well, I mean, somebody had to set up the airstrip and bring up all the Cubans up and train them and everything
Well,
else.
that was in Arkansas. My dad, all the people that worked with my dad in the drug smuggling business that I know of are all based in Baton Rouge. They're all local people. So.
Huh. Boy, this story gets interesting.
Again, like a lot of my dad's secrets, most of them, I'm sure, died with him. You know, he kept everyone on a need-to-know basis. If he told you what you needed to know at that time to do whatever he needed you to do. No one around him knew everything he did. No one. except him.
So they had $1 million hit on him. The judge knew this. Took it.
Everyone
out on
knew this.
pissed.
Yeah, everyone knew it. It's published in the newspaper.
Oh, it was.
We had to be not the hit. It was published in the newspaper. He had his sentencing. Then he had to be at the Salvation Army.
Oh,
every
yeah,
day
yeah, that
for
was.
6
I forgot
months.
about that.
He was 6 months, and he was there 3 weeks before they killed him.
So Pablo Escobar, and you said who else put the hit on him?
Well, Pablo Escobar. Juan Pablo told me that his dad, Pablo Escobar, and I forget his first name, Rodriguez Gotcha. They called him the Mexican. He was the fourth member of the cartel. They were the two who mainly wanted him dead. And Pablo paid the money. They called a meeting in Colombia. Bernardo Vasquez, which is the prisoner, the hitman that I became, one of the ones I became friends with in prison, the mastermind of the hit. He was in New Orleans as a money courier. He never smuggled drugs or didn't do hits. He lived in New Orleans, worked a regular job. He spoke good English. He just brought money home for them when they collected money for the drugs. They enlisted him because he knew.
How did he get the money back? You know?
I never asked him.
Oh, you never did.
I didn't. I could find out, but I didn't.
That'd be an interesting
yeah.
story how they did that back then, how he was a carrier.
Yeah, no, I've thought about that before.
Millions and
I've
millions.
thought about that after I met him. I was like, I should have brought that up, but we were talking more about other stuff. I just, But
So
that was his thing. So
how did he get the phone call? Like, did he tell you about how he
said
got the phone?
I don't remember about how he got the call, who called him, but he was basically all the main members, like all the people that they worked with, were summoned to a big meeting in Columbia. And he was summoned down there. He didn't know what it was for. That's the thing. We've got this problem with this guy. We need him killed. And he said, the way he said the meeting went was that Escobar asked who would like to be involved in it, and Bernardo said he raised his hand, and Escobar came to him and said, "Look, I don't want you involved in this because whoever does this is maybe going to be killed or they're going to get arrested." It's and that I guess Bernardo was saying that him and Escobar were so close he didn't want somebody else couldn't do this, and he said no. He insisted. He's like, "No, I know Louisiana. Speak good English. I know I've been to Baton Rouge several times. These guys have never been there. They don't speak to. Let me do it." And so he's like, I'll coordinate it for him. I'll handle all that. He even told me one time, and it was not long after Dad is killed, one of the neighbors in our neighborhood had reported a car. They wrote down the license plate as suspicious, and everybody knew that he was my dad. You know what I'm saying? Everybody in the neighborhood knew for sure. They wrote down a license plate of this car, and we always wondered if we never found out who it was. We always wondered if that could have been one of the hitmen because we saw him. And Bernardo confirmed to me, yes, that was him. He said, I drove by y'all's house one day, and when I was coming back out the neighborhood because of one way in, one way out. He described the street to me, everything. And so when I was coming back past y'all the second time, y'all came walking out the house, the front door. He said, it was your dad, your mom. I knew because I knew I had pictures of her. I knew what she looked like. And another woman, which would have been accurate, was my dad's secretary, that kind of babysat us well. He said, it was your dad and your mom and another woman. I didn't see your little sister, but I saw you and your brother, a brown-haired boy and a blonde-haired boy. Y'all walking down the steps, and y'all kind of looked up at me when I passed. And I said, yeah, our neighbors had reported. They said that was me. He said, there was and he also told me another thing. There was a first group of hitmen that came, and that they were, because the cartel was getting antsy that Dad hadn't been killed yet. And they were kind of putting pressure on him to do it. And the first group that came had said, well, we're just, because he said he's either with federal agents or he's with his women and children. And they had a rule that for a long time, Escobar was against, innocent family members, especially women and children, being killed in crossfire. He eventually got past that. When he blew up the planes and stuff, but at a certain time, he was against all that. And so the guys that were here had said, no, if all we can do is kill the women and children, his wife and the kids too, we're just going to do it. Because that's the only time. The only time he's not with the federal agents is when he's with his wife and kids. Screw it, we're just going to kill everybody. And the way Bernardo told me is that Escobar didn't want that to take place, and so he sent Bernardo, Cumbamba, and Miguel Velez and Quintero Cruz guys, the ones who actually ended up doing the assassination, that they came in and got the other crew to leave. And so how'd y'all get them to leave? Y'all told him Escobar wants y'all to leave, and he said, actually, we just paid him. We gave him some money for their trouble and told him, Escobar's turning it over to us. Y'all take off from here. And they left, and then
because they're going to shoot the whole family up.
That's what he said. I don't know if that's true, but that's what he told me.
Did he? So they watched. You said they watched your dad. They had him videos going to the halfway house, doing everything.
Yeah, they rented the little hotel right next to the Salvation Army, and they had a room where you could. Bernardo sat there with binoculars and two-way radio, and would tell you every day they'd see him. He parked in the same spot right in front of the Salvation Army every day. He'd back his car in. They'd see him every day go and come. They watched him for a few days, and then what the guys did was the other two guys that were actually in the hit crew, they went they bought a bunch of clothes from the store, took the tags off and put it in the trunk of the car in boxes like they were donating clothes into the bin, because there was a clothes bin right here than the parking spots. They backed in right next to where my dad would park. That the trunk opened on the car with boxes of clothes, and they were just dumping stuff like they were donating clothes. Well, inside the trunk, they also had the machine gun. So he radios to him, hey, I see him coming up the road. He's coming up the road. He's turning down. They can hear on the radio. All right, he's backing in. Get ready. So they pop the trunk. One's just sitting in the front seat smoking a cigarette, Cumbamba is, with a camera. And Quintero Cruz is throwing clothes in the clothes bin. When Dad backs in next to him, he's on that cell phone I was talking about on his show. And he's on the phone. When he's backing in, he just picks the machine gun up, steps from around the trunk, and lit him up. Then throws the gun in the car, and they take off. And Cumbamba snaps pictures of it. So when they get down the road, Bernard says, what the hell are you doing taking pictures? You got pictures of assassination we just did. He said, what are you doing? He said, I want to make sure I get paid for it. And he said, no, give me that. And he said he took the camera ripped the film out and threw it out the window of the car. Because there's stories in the newspaper, days later when the two of them get caught at the New Orleans airport with the FBI thought when the FBI agents caught them there, they grabbed the camera from them and they opened the camera and they thought they exposed the film in the camera because they couldn't get anything from it. That they thought they must have had pictures of the evidence in there and probably the assassination, but some rookie FBI agents because that's who you get at 3 a.m. at the airport. It's not the top guy. You're getting some some younger newer guys. They thought they exposed and ruined the film. That's in the, you can find that online. But Bernardo told me no. I threw the film out somewhere on the Airline Highway in Baton Rouge. So that there was film on the ground of the hit. He said when I realized that Miguel Velez Kumbama had actually taken pictures of it and. I threw it out the car.
So how did they get caught?
There was 2 guys who went to the airport in New Orleans. The 2 guys I was just talking about with the camera thing. They get stopped. I think it sounds like they were set up to get busted because they were just getting on airplane tickets in New Orleans. The FBI's at the airport. They see Latin men. They had a description of them from from a cop that saw them switching cars. So they grabbed them at the airport and arrested them. Bernardo. The mastermind guy, since he had friends in New Orleans because he lived there, he went back to the safe house they had, but just to be extra careful in case somebody tipped him off, he just went and stayed with a buddy of his that the cartel didn't know, a guy he just had befriended while living in New Orleans. Unbeknownst to him, that guy was working as undercover with the DEA because of a drug charge he had caught. So they put out, the cops put out all their informants. If we're looking for the guys that killed Barry Seal. Any Colombian guys acting strange. He said, well, actually, my guy's been staying. A buddy of mine came to stay with me, and he came right after that, And so they figured out, okay, he's one of the hit guys, and he says that his buddy's drinking coffee, reading the paper about the murder. And the feds, the door comes off the hinges, all the windows get busted in, they raid the house. And he said that he actually had brought the machine gun with him and had hid it, and told his lawyer about it. Once he got an attorney, and that the lawyer had gotten the gun and disposed of it. And then the last one, Kumbamba, they call him that. He was a very prolific hit man for the cartel. Did a lot of murders here in South Florida. One story about him walking into some nightclub here one night and shooting up the whole place with machine guns, killing a bunch of people and missing the guy that he was actually even after. But he just randomly sprayed the whole place up trying to get one guy. This guy was a prolific hit man for him. What he did is he got into a cab in New Orleans and said, take me to Florida, paid the guy $1,000 or whatever he wanted, but I think it was $1,000 the guy took. That was a good bit of money then. And they're driving, he would have gotten away, and they're crossing through Mississippi late at night. Cab actually hits a deer, kills the deer. Cab driver's such a stickler for the rule. If I hit a deer, I'm just leaving afterwards. I didn't even know you're supposed to do that. He called Wildlife and Fisheries to report it. The Wildlife and Fisheries guy had heard, the APB out over some Colombian men, so he gets there, sees this Latin guy.
That's crazy though, because it's in Mississippi. You didn't think it'd be on the same radio wave.
I guess it went out. I mean, he had it in Mississippi. You can look.
Wow.
So then he radios back to the cops like he acts like he's just writing up a deer report, and he radios back and hey, I need some backup. I think this might be and cops descend on that, so he gets arrested. So he would have been gone if he hadn't made it to Florida. He would have been on an airplane. They'd never.
Did they charge him for a bunch of other murders too, or there's just
no? I think just that one.
How are they able to pin all these your dad's murder? Like how were they able to say that it was them? Did they all start cooperating and telling?
I don't think they did. They they had the witnesses, the people that saw them. The witnesses that I guess I'm assuming just the witness testimony from the people that did it, the people that were around the scene, and the people at the hotel, and probably fingerprints on the car. The car they switched out of. That's
crazy.
They were on trial together, so I don't think.
Law enforcement got lucky on that one. I'm gonna be honest.
Yes,
with you.
that's what I tell you. It was a unique way. Like the way they got,
it was meant for them to get caught.
Exactly, especially the deer thing. Like you hit a deer and the dude calls the cab driver. Seemed like he had told me, "Hey man, I'll give you another $1,000 if we can just go." Like fuck the deer, you know what I'm saying?
And not even that. I mean, there's 3 different ways that they got busted.
Exactly.
And think about it. How many murders them other guys had done?
Kumbamba was a prolific. He's on the cocaine cowboy documentaries and stuff. They call him Kumbamba because that's some Spanish something about his chin because he had like a big chin and that was his nickname. He's in all those documentaries for tons of murders in South Florida. In fact, he had just beat a murder rap in New York State. He went there and killed, I think, 2 people, but he beat the charge, got right on the plane and flew down here to take this hit.
Really?
And he was upset that the hit wasn't given to him to begin with. The guy, Max Mermelstein, At first, they gave the hit to Max Mermelstein. They were trying to get him to do it, and he wasn't a killer. That they were because Escobar wanted it. He didn't want it to be a Colombian. He wanted it to be an American that did it, so they couldn't be blamed on them. He wanted to be, hey, that's a gringo doing that. We didn't touch that guy, and Max Mermelstein wouldn't do it because he wasn't a hitman. He kept dragging his feet and stuff, and Kumbamba was going to him saying, Miguel Velez, he was like, I want to know, why wasn't this offered to me? I'd love to, he was adamant he wanted to be involved in the hit. And he was a rough guy.
So how was life after your dad passed?
It was very different. Very different.
Did you struggle? You went probably from a high life to having everything you wanted?
We went from a lot of money, a lot of jewelry, a lot of airplanes, helicopters, all that stuff to, my mom had a tiny bit of money because my dad had bought $1 million life insurance policy that the IRS wasn't supposed to be able to touch. But they claimed because that was bought with drug money that they should get the proceeds of the life insurance policy. So for 7 years, she had to spend money on attorneys fighting the government to keep that. Eventually won the case, but she bled a lot of the money away, on attorney bills. And so, she tried.
What did your mom do to afford to keep your boys?
Pretty much nothing. That's she got my father's Social Security. She got a little bit of life insurance money, money and a little annuity that her tax lady had purchased for her with some of the money the IRS hadn't yet got. They couldn't touch the annuity, so
what about businesses? Did your dad have any businesses that were legit that they couldn't touch?
He had some businesses, but they took everything.
So they took every. They knew
every not the stuff he had in offshore accounts, but those banks took that. There was
as soon as they knew he was arrested, they were like, "Oh, what are you talking about?"
When he was killed, there was an account in the Cayman Islands with millions in it. My mom sent a private investigator to go down there to check on it, and they said, "Oh, Mr. Seal closed that account." And they're like, "Well, that's not possible because Mr. Seal's dead, so he couldn't have Mr. Seal closed the account and had security escort him out the bank."
The Caymans were notorious for doing that.
Yeah.
When what was Noriega went down? The one guy I did time with, actually two guys I did time with, said they lost over 15, 20 million apiece in the bank accounts, especially in Panama.
Yeah, they'll just take it. There's no rules and regulations like here. They can do it. They can do that to you.
That is just absolutely crazy. So, but what would you tell people after what you've seen, how the feds worked, friends and families and attorneys, what they did to your dad once he got arrested? Like the stories, as in did everybody want to pay him, or was everybody trying to get out of it?
Oh no! When everybody was out to grab whatever they could grab, my dad was the cash cow on the money train for everybody, and he supported a lot of people, and he helped a lot of people in his, and was very generous, and you don't hear from those people when they're, I never heard from too many of them after Dad was killed, So
that's wild.
Well, when Juan Pablo and I were talking one time, and he was saying how people always ask him that, and his dad obviously had a lot more than mine, but he's like, the money just disappears. He's like, people don't understand how can y'all not have money left? He's like, you don't understand when this money comes so quick and it just is gone. And I told him, and I shared with him the scripture of the Bible, and he wasn't aware of it. I think he used it in one of his books. He said, Aaron Steele taught me this. In Proverbs, it says, that ill-gotten money, it makes wings like eagle. It makes wings like a bird and will just fly away. And he said that really hit him. He said, because that's what happened. He said, I watched my dad's money it just grew its own wings and flew away. It was just gone.
If you've seen the breakdown, how much money he spent on rubber bands, how much money he lost from rats.
Yeah.
Just think about this. I can't find all my money. I had so many hiding spots, and I would move so much money all over the place. I might be under exaggerating it. There's still $300,000 to $500,000 just in cash that I'm guaranteed that's still there. I cannot find it in my hiding spots. It might be way more than that.
When we get done with the show, let's go look for it.
I've already been looking. I've looked and looked and looked and looked.
I don't even put some fresh eyes on it.
Listen, I'm telling you,
you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you look at the same from the same viewpoint. I just like to from
I've
another
tried.
I've
I've dreamed about it. I've done everything you can possibly think about. I know one day these spots will start coming back to me. I know that they were inside that house, and I got permission when I got home because my girl let it go back to the bank, and the bank gave me permission, but they had somebody watch me. And I tried to see if I could locate it to go back. I was going to knock a window out or, send somebody in to get it. And
I'll make a deal with you. You let me see y'all's hiding spots, I'll show you mine.
But I mean, you got to think about it. Pablo Escobar still got. I mean, he was worth $2 billion back then. Okay, people don't understand this. Think of how much money your dad had on payroll in order to make his operation go. Pay everybody. I'll pay all these eyes. Pay this. Pay that. People don't realize it's going out as fast as it's coming in.
I think it was about $800,000 a month he was in payroll at one time. He had.
Yeah. And people don't realize that how many people you grease. And the more hands you grease and they tell somebody, you got to grease another hand, then another hand, and then another hand.
And one thing with my dad, he was not violent at all. He would never want someone hurt for no reason. He could have had the people that were like the guy Kenneth Webb I tell you about that lied for the cops with the shoebox. My dad could have had him killed for nothing if he wanted. He could have the cartel. They gladly came in taking care of that for my dad. You know what I'm saying? He wouldn't have even had to pay him to do that. He was not like he would have rather have gone to prison than to do something. He would not have had anyone harmed like that. You know what I'm saying? He just wouldn't have done it.
I asked Jay Flores about because I've heard that El Chapo, they got him up to about $100 million a month in bribes. He was having to pay because you got to realize when you get extorted by one, you get extorted by another, and then the price tags go up.
That's the thing. So since my dad wasn't violent, the people that were loyal to him, I'm sure there were people that were just loyal to him just because they were loyal. But then there were people that they were only loyal because he was paying them. You know, so when you don't have the threat of violence like Escobar, you wouldn't want to cross Escobar just. But he'd have to pay you off. You didn't want the smoke that was coming from him.
Yeah.
My dad didn't have that threat and he wouldn't have used it. So the only reason there's a lot of people staying loyal just because he was paying them. So he had to keep paying them. When you don't have the drug income coming anymore, you still got to pay these people. You know, because they know you're not gonna. They know you're not gonna try to help.
Do I think that Juan still has money? No, absolutely not. But is there a lot of money still missing in Pablo Escobar's? There's hundreds of millions of dollars.
He doesn't speak to any of him and his mother don't speak to anyone from his dad's side of the family because they robbed him blind whenever his dad was killed. And even before his dad's brother was selling information to the DA on where his dad was hiding at. And when Juan Pablo found that out, he hadn't spoken to him since.
Oh, they're the ones that gave up his dad?
Not when they found him in that last spot, but in other hiding spots before that, when they were here where he was at, his brother was working with the DEA.
What?
And the dad's sister went to one of the stash houses. I think it was one they called the Blue House, and it was a house that was built just money. The entire house was built with money in all the walls, and they had one of the trusted bodyguards that he lived there just to protect the money. He said the sister showed up there when Escobar was on the run, and he couldn't communicate with people on a daily basis. She showed up at the house and said, Pablo sent me here to clean out the Blue House. And the guard there had no reason to think that she was his sister.
So the family's still wealthy then.
He helped her load the car up. He said the trunk of the car was so filled with cash that the bumper was dragging the ground when she drove off. And she was never authorized to go and get the money. She just took the money and split.
So did he say the family's still well off, or did they blow it like most people?
No, the Cali Cartel took everything the government didn't get. The Cali Cartel took from them.
What do you mean? What do you mean took from them? I don't understand.
They called a meeting with his mother whenever they were, after Escobar was killed, and they told her, they said, look, we know the government's taking a lot, but we know you still have X, Y, and Z, and you're going to sign whatever properties over to us. You're going to give us whatever cash. You're going to give it all to us, and if you hold back as much as one nickel, you're going to die. And they said, and so she said that she just wanted they wanted to kill Juan Pablo, and she said, just spare my son's life. Don't come after him, and you can have it all. And they said, don't hold anything back. Give us everything, and we will. She said, you can have everything. So I asked him, I said, man, that must have been one of the saddest days of your life. When you had to give them everything. He said, no, that was actually one of the happiest days of my life.
Because the burden was off of you.
Yeah, I said, how? I said, well, why did it make you happy? Because I knew then no one cared. No one wanted to kill us anymore because the Cali Cartel knew they got everything. No, everybody knew we had no more money, and therefore nobody wanted to kill us.
That. Why would they? That blows my mind that they were like, give us all the money, all the assets. That is, I would think they would be like, no, we want blood. We want you gone.
They wanted to kill him. That's what they were going to kill Juan Pablo.
Why?
I guess because they thought he was going to take over the dad's legacy or something. He got on the radio and threatened everybody right after his dad was killed, and then immediately he called a radio station.
Oh, it is?
He called a radio station and said, right after they killed Pablo, and said, I'm going to take vengeance on all my dad's enemies. Y'all mess, basically y'all mess with the wrong people. I'm going to take over now, and I'm coming for all y'all everybody's crossed my dad. And then 30 minutes later, he realized he made a mistake, and he calls back and apologizes, but that's still out there, And so that's not. I don't think that's why they were going to kill him anyway, And the mom went and mom went and had a meeting with him and said, look, he said, how brave she was when she went and met with him. She went and met with him by herself and said, look, I just want my son's life. You can have everything.
I mean, what else did she have to lose? I mean, you think about it. She didn't have nothing else to lose.
They could have just killed her anyway. They killed her
Yeah,
there.
but they were going to kill her regardless. But she could have ran. She could have went to another country and took everything, all the money.
When they
and stuff.
eventually, they did. And that's why they've after that, no country in the world wanted them. They had to leave Colombia. I think they went to like Mozambique or something first. And when they got there, they were like, "Yeah, we'll take them." They got there, and we want some money to house y'all, but that wasn't the deal. They're supposed to just be doing it for humanitarian reasons. And they get there, and like, we can't live in this country, and we don't have money to give these guys, and they had to leave there. The only country in the world that would take them was Argentina. Not one other nation in the earth would take them. So Argentina said, "We'll take them." They got there. They opened up a phone book. They said, "Pick out your new names." And Juan Pablo found Sebastian Marinquin. He's like, "I'll take this one." The mom flipped to one. She picked her name, and the sister picked a name. And then they were putting up an apartment in Argentina, and they've lived there since.
Really?
Yep. And then he came out, I don't know, 15 so years ago, I guess, when he started
Still
speaking.
lives down there?
Yeah, Buenos Aires. Listen, check this out. He became, this is one of the things that made me want to reach out to him. He became an architect. He went to school for architecture. And he said he did that because he said, my father blew up so many buildings. I wanted to build some back. And so he became he does high-end stuff. Well, when he first got out there, he was basically new. He hadn't done anything worthy of this. They had an anonymous benefactor, that wanted a large property built and wanted him to design it and him only, but they didn't want to be named. Okay, and it was huge. He showed me pictures of it. I lost it after my divorce, but beautiful residence. He said after he finished it, he finds out later that it was one of the Cali Cartel guys.
I believe it. So I'm going to tell you a wild story. I had dinner with the Cali Cartel. I'll say this much.
Did they pay the bill?
I was at their penthouse on the top story with their servants. They have a room with their servants that live right by the kitchen. And when I say a room the size like a prison cell, Nelson, with bunk beds. It almost looks like the bunk beds you see on like Below Deck, like the rooms like that, Below Deck episode, okay? And we're out on the balcony overseeing Cali Cartel, or Cali, Colombia. And the grandfather at the time, you got to think he's probably 70, 80 years old. Okay, so he's original from back Pablo Escobar and everybody else. And I'm having dinner with the grandkids and the cousin, the moms and all of them, right? And I'll never forget this day. Jessica's heard me talk about it, and I think you've heard me talk about it too, Nelson, is that a car bomb went off. I didn't know it was a car bomb. It was this big mushroom cloud that came out from the city. I'm like, what in the world was that? And they're like, oh, that's just sending a message. And I'm thinking, like, I didn't think this shit still went on down there. And I didn't realize that. I was under impression that Colombia wasn't that dangerous back in 05, 06 era, but everybody told me it was still really dangerous, especially Cali was really, really dangerous. And I didn't know that.
The most dangerous city in Cali.
See, I didn't know that. And this is back then, too. And what's so funny is that when they pulled up to the airport to pick us up, it was 2 Zuzu pickup trucks, little Zuzu 4 doors. And I'll never forget, armed guards would get in, the bulletproof vehicles, because the grandkids are in there. So they run around bulletproof vehicles. And we do not stop at a red light. Like, they'll jump up on the sidewalks, whatever they have to do. If they can't, they try to get around. We blow through all the way. We roll through red lights, everything, because they said that that's where kidnappings happen. That's where the little scooters come up and kidnap you and everything else. And I'll never forget, we went out one night. We were not allowed to go out by ourselves.
Those scooters, the way they drive around cars there, blows my mind how they do
They got a whole family on there.
Dude,
whole family.
And they run up so close to you. I'm like, how are these guys?
3 people on the damn thing. 3 or 4 people.
Jesus.
So I'll never forget. This is how valuable life is down there. It's about that much. Just really small, size of a dime. And we were in front of a nightclub, and I'll never forget. I went up to one of the little hot dog stands to get a taco, a little 3-wheel bicycle. And it's like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm grabbing it, and I hear pop, pop, and I turn around. I don't know, 15, 20 feet away. Dude just out, and dude just walks back, gets on a scooter, and runs right off. Dude got hit right there in front of everybody, like 2 o'clock in the morning. And we went to a nightclub, and I came back a couple months later, And I was like, hey, man, let's go back to that same nightclub. And they're like, absolutely not. And I'm like, why? And they're like, oh, it's shut down. And I'm like, for what? The rival, there must have been some cartel feuding or whatever going on. And they took it out on they had this big nightclub. And everybody was lined up. And they went by and threw grenades out at the line and blew up a bunch of people and all kinds of stuff at the front of the thing. So to shut their, they're doing it to hit their businesses, to set an example. And they blew up the front of the building with grenades. Like, that's the type of shit they're doing down there still to this day. And you don't ever hear about it. It's not that violent, I don't think, anymore, I hear.
And how'd you meet the Cali cartel again?
It's through, they had their kids over here. I went to school with the kids.
That's right.
So back in the 80s, when Pablo Escobar and they were at war, and when the war popped off, they moved some of their family members over here. Okay. So they sent the wives with the kids and stuff here. So the Cali cartel, I don't know which member or who they are, sent their wife. The only reason why I know is because the two brothers that I know, their mom was sent over here with them when they were like 6 years old. I want to say 6 or something like that. And they're older than I am. And a little bit older. We all went to school together. I didn't know them, but somebody I grew up with that I went to school with got real close with them. And they were only in our town for like 3 or 4 years, or maybe not even, I don't think so, but they moved, but they stayed in contact. And then when I had my connect in Bahamas and I had that stuff going on, I was having problems with products. If you ever watch my podcast, I always had problems with getting a consistent connect. I could get rid of as much dope as you wanted, but my problem was just getting quality, and I didn't really care about the price at the time. It was just that I needed a lot.
The dope was cut up you were getting?
So the problem of it is everybody said they could get it, right? So my first connect was a Mexican guy, and I didn't realize how easy I had it. I stumbled into the drug cartel or drug business and thought it was like, holy shit, this is the easiest thing, or why is not everybody doing it? I didn't realize my connect at the time, he was a really good connect. Mm-hmm. He was getting really fire stuff, and he was getting 60 to 80 keys at a time. So if I wanted 5 or 10, I could get them all day long, no problem. And I didn't realize that. I thought it was just that easy. I didn't know. Yeah. Then once that whole family got assassinated off the turnpike in Port St. Lucie, they killed a husband, wife, and the 2 kids. All my connects leave. So apparently they must have been tied to that somehow through their group or whatever, right? So it had to have been Mexican cartel stuff. When he left, everybody could tell me, like, I can get whatever, I can get this, I can get that, I can get this. So I would be like, okay, well, I want 5 bricks. Everybody, I call him yes man. Everybody's yeah. Okay, well, here's the money, let's get it. Nobody could get it. They say, and then they come up with a million excuses. Oh, my God, this. Some people could get it, but they would get 1 brick here, 1 brick over here, 1 brick over here. So you never got the good shit. Yeah. And then I got to the point where it was repressed, good shit on top, garbage on the bottom. You go through it all. Yeah. And then same thing with Bahamians. I get over to Bahamians, had the same problems. It was just nonstop. And somebody I knew somebody and introduced me, and I didn't realize who I was getting introduced to until I met the cousin. And then once I got met to the cousin, that's when we had dinner with the family. And the cousin just got Ecuador. Ecuador is the one that's south of Colombia, right?
I think so.
Okay, it's the one that's south of Colombia.
Bolivia?
No, not Bolivia. It's Ecuador, I think it is. So he just got released on a $6 million kidnapping ransom. Oh. Literally just flew in that day or the day before, and I was down there meeting him. And he just got released on a $6 million ransom. Kidnapping. He was going down there to do business, and they took him in over. I might be wrong. I don't want to repeat it wrong, but I think a drug deal went bad, or they took him and said, you're going to give us this much money. I don't know the whole story. I can't, unless it was a rival, something got him while he was down there. $6 million was paid. I know that for a fact. And we met, things went good. We hung out 3 days, and then I got some wild stories in Colombia. I'm talking about.
I'm sure
I'll
you
tell
do.
you off record because I'm saving the shit for later.
I'm sure
I want the series to. I don't want to tell them or people know about it. I try not to tell a lot of the inside stuff, like with the girls and the cars and the, helicopters. Like, it was wild shit.
I believe it.
So, that type of thing. But, the amount of money. We get back on the money, the hidden, about we're talking about that stuff.
How about you showing me where you hide yours?
Well, I can't find it all. But here's the thing that I tell everybody: what the feds don't get, your attorneys will get. Yeah. Whatever's left over, friends and family are gonna grab it every which way they can. Everybody's got a handout. They don't care. it's really bad. I mean, to the point where my family's talking about all they want to do is talk about that dirty money, and they run their mouth. But it's like, okay, well, give me all my dirty money back. They don't want to give it back. None of my family wants to give the dirty money back, but they all want to still talk shit about my dirty money. So like whatever.
I have no problem with the cleanliness of your money
No, I don't either.
whatsoever.
I don't either. Trust me. I will tell you this. I have one more asset thing holding over my head, and I can't wait until I'm about to get screwed out of it. And everybody's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I want it all gone. I want all that shit gone because at the end of the day, it's brought me nothing but bad, all of it bad.
Yeah, I understand.
It
does that.
It's brought so much bad. People don't realize how fast it comes, how fast it goes. Yeah. It's just like Juan, I understand the feeling. It sounds sickening. The day that they finally got me, when I tell people the weight off my shoulders, it felt like, okay, I don't have to run from them or I don't have to hide from them. They got me. Like, yeah, I got to face this, but the stress that's why I started Dope Boy Empire. So Dope Boy Empire be like, oh, what do you mean like that? I'm like, because Dope Boys build empires. We have a mindset like I've never seen before. I tell people all the time, you're pushing a product that you can't advertise. You're pushing a product that you can't sell in a store or set up a billboard. You can't do anything. So later on, you can't advertise it. You have to sell it in the darkness. You have to buy and move it and sell it without without the feds and everybody getting a hold of you. And then you build an empire. Like most dope boys build empires, build huge things. It's like, nobody can compare to that, because think about it. You're taking something you can't advertise. You're taking something you have to hide. You're taking something that you can't do anything, and you're making millions, let alone some of these people, hundreds of millions of dollars. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's that dope boy mindset. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it's a mindset. I got to come back with a warrants. I got all kinds of, I got a line that I'm doing now that I started. It's called Retired Dope Boy within this. And, everybody loves it. Retired Dope Boy one's pretty good. So, but I mean, you got into the drug trade a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
You didn't get into the coke business though.
No. I just had even as a young kid, I just had the wisdom to know if Barry Seal's son was ever arrested selling cocaine, that would be the end of me. I just didn't, it seemed like it'd be cliche and what every law enforcement officer in my area would have expected. So I'd used cocaine before, but I've never sold it, I wouldn't take $1 for it. I just knew that that's the last thing I need to do is have another SEAL arrested with cocaine. It's not happening.
Why would you want to get into business knowing after what happened to your dad and all the problems?
I did. That's one reason I didn't get involved in the cocaine business either. I knew I never wanted to be a cocaine dealer. Not just because of the reasons if I got caught. I just had no desire to do that. I just got into going to Mexico and smuggling the little bit of pills and stuff I did back I was just trying to make a quick dollar. But
drug game is a drug game. Doesn't matter if it's cocaine or not.
Yeah, but just like I said, my name being called cocaine, I'm just not doing it. And the stuff that I was doing wouldn't have the penalty. The penalty for cocaine plus with my name attached to it, I wasn't trying to do that. I was just trying to make some quick money, do it with something that I thought was pretty harmless. The pharmaceutical pills, Valiums and stuff. I just didn't, in my mind, I rationalized that it wasn't that bad and it wouldn't be that great. I probably won't go to prison if I get busted at least one time, and so I wasn't trying to be a drug smuggler. I knew people that had that ambition. I didn't have that ambition to do that. It was just a way for me to I was trying to find a couple of little shortcuts in life that didn't have too bad consequences. That was my rationale for it anyway.
Okay, one last question before we end this thing. You think the CIA and the government still controls the cartels and all the drug shipments?
Who do you work for?
The CIA.
That's what I thought. No, I think the CIA has pretty much since they were invented or in their inception, they've always been in the drug trade. They've always been in black market trades of all of them. I think they were throughout the time that my dad was involved with them, and they are now. I don't think why would they stop?
4 CIA.
Yeah, it might come on one day that they're some of the biggest fentanyl traffickers in the world. Who knows?
I don't think they are. I think that's more of China.
No, I mean I wasn't being a little.
I think the China. I think the China is the one that's trying to pollute, and that's why Trump.
I was being kind of facetious, but the point was I wouldn't be surprised if they were like it would not be beneath them to traffic in fentanyl if they needed it for a purpose, they would do it.
So it's just like the Pablo Escobar thing. See, I bet you he was given the green light to the CIA to do what he did until he started doing all that dumb shit, and that's when they used your dad as the fall guy to take him out, and you know how they paint the picture so they don't look like they never want to be exposed.
Exactly.
Nelson's been really reporting on this really heavily, and he's been asking me a lot of questions about the 4 CIA agents that were hit in Mexico. And everybody keeps saying, like, were they informants or were they working to make sure that the operations and overseeing it and Mexico? Well,
I didn't even think about that when I heard
Think about it. I don't think they're informants. And I keep trying to tell them the reason why I don't think they're informants is because the fact that if they were informants, why would it be CIA, not DEA?
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, CIA. They don't do.
Why haven't they been retaliated against? So they got killed, but our government hasn't gone down there and punished nobody or did anything. Because when they took out that federal agent down there, what was his name? Back in the 80s?
Kiki Camarena.
What did they do whenever he was killed? They rained hell down on them. And they found that guy, okay? That's what I'm saying. But 4 CIA guys got killed and nothing's happened.
My dad was actually.
why?
My dad was actually. They had him reaching out to connections he had, trying to find out where Camarena was when all that went down. And my mom overheard him on the phone saying, he said, "Oh shit, Debbie, they killed him. They killed him."
Really? So my take on it is that they killed their handlers. That them CIA guys, I'm gonna call it now, that they were handlers. And what it was is now, just like Pablo Escobar, these cartels have gotten so out of control and our government's coming down on them. And they're like, you know what, fuck you. We can't trust you no more. We think you're giving us up our locations because right when Trump said he's going to put military down there and he was going to do all this stuff, they realized, like, you fuckers are not, you're betraying us because now everybody keeps falling. Yeah. And they're like, all right, that's it. And it seems like they took them out.
It sounds plausible.
Because they're like, we can't trust none of y'all no more.
I didn't think much about the story until you guys brought it up, but I remember when I heard it, I was like, that's weird. Why would there be 4 CIA agents out there investigating cartels? That doesn't make any sense. That's DEA.
They don't investigate.
That's DEA stuff.
They run underground operations. Yeah. So when CIA's involved, that means they were running that operation. They're down there helping them control. Because this is what I'm going to explain to you. Do you agree that more drugs are coming to the United States now than there was in the 80s? For sure. Because there's a higher population now.
I would guess it's just at least as much. You know, I don't know.
No, they're saying that Colombia's producing way more cocaine than it's ever has in history.
And there's more different kind of drugs.
Yeah, well, with the dark web and anybody can access drugs from overseas.
Okay,
now,
so it's not just cocaine; it's meth, ice, everything. So all together, more drugs are coming to the United States than West because of a bigger population, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that means that more drugs are coming in, and you know, it's just like when I got into the drug smuggling, they said, "Oh, you can't run from Bahamas no more. That's over with. You can't do it no more." Well, how the fuck is all these drugs coming in then? They're coming in every which way. They're still coming in the same way they've always been coming. Yeah. Nothing's changed. So you're going to tell me all these big organizations are getting away with this shit and they're running and our CIA doesn't know and our government doesn't know who they are? Get the fuck out of here. They know exactly who they are. They're paying. They're allowing this operation to go down. And if you notice, they only take small guys down. I do a podcast. Every now and then I go on their podcast. They're ex-cops. And Mike worked on my case too. As when the feds would call up like to investigate, he would be the one that came on my case and do stuff in my hometown. And Mike said every time he built cases against these big time guys, he would start building them, be like, holy shit, it's big. And they would have to hand it over to the DEA. They would take the case, kick everybody off of it. And then people, and I asked him, I said, damn, dude. He had asked me about me. I said, how the fuck are they still going? And he's like, Jay, I built cases because he told me he built cases against them. I'm like, well, how the fuck are they still out here then? He's like, Jason, I built cases against them and I handed it over to the DEA. DEA washed it right up under and allowed them to continue. I'm like, holy fuck. I said, what are they? He goes, well, that tells you one thing. He says they're allowing them to operate for whatever reason or they're confidential informants. Yeah. But here we go again. Why are they allowing them to still pollute the streets if confidential informants this long? Think about it. But your dad, look what they did to him. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Man, I'm on. Thanks for having me, man.
And tell everybody how they can plug into all your stuff.
Well, at my YouTube at Aaron Seal Official, it's where I do the podcast with my co-host Derek Gaviano. We smuggle truth. We just kind of started out, but we've got some interesting content coming, especially this month, and the shows I do with you guys, and maybe next month we might have one Pablo Escobar on for to promote his movie. And yeah, I'm on Facebook, just Aaron Seal, Instagram real.Aaron Seal, and TikTok Aaron_Seal. Connect with me there.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.